Hello, everybody, and welcome to the In Wheel Time program. We are so thankful that you could join us on this Saturday with our live broadcast. This is In Wheel Time, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars there in the blue shirt, and King Conrad DeLong here. Jeff Zekin is a little bit off camera, but he'll be joining us here in just a few minutes with his used car review. I'm Don Armstrong, so glad you could join us again. Well, we're going to start things off a little bit differently this week because we are going to have, right out of the box, a guest. And we're going to talk to local racer, road racer, Alec Udell. And Alec is a pro road racer. Alec, it's always great to see you, and thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a while since we talked. And tell us, first of all, what program, what racing series are you actually in that you're competing in?
Yeah, thanks, Don. It's great to be here. Always like chatting with y'all on the show. I enjoy listening as well.
Thanks.
So this season, I've been racing in the IMSA GS category. So that's the Michelin Pilot Challenge. It's been great. I've been racing with the team out of Houston, actually, Windward Racing, in the Mercedes GT4 car. So that's been nice. They have a few guys that they actually bring over from Europe, and because the race season has been condensed, they needed a stand-in, and a local guy that has done some karting stuff with them, and so I plugged in really nicely with the team, and we've had some good races come out of it. So
tell me
a few more events this year.
Well, tell me a little bit more about the car itself. I'm Mercedes GT4. You certainly can't go into a showroom and buy that. Yeah,
definitely. It's basically kind of like the Black Series, the AMG GT Black Series, and then just has a cage in it, and it's ready to go for the racetrack. So the GT4 car is a little more closely related to the street car versus the full-blown GT3, which is kind of the next level up, and that's the highest level of car that you could go and buy from Mercedes as to go and drive. But the GT4 is a bit more street car, so a lot of the components, like the control arms, are the same as the street car. It's not, all the body work is very similar to like what you would see on a Black Series GT, and so it's a little more well built for the racetrack because it's put through a lot more stress, obviously, than a street car would be, but it's definitely the most closely related to a street car. It's similar to something that you could buy in a showroom, but just that extra little bit more built to be able to take the higher stresses that we put on it.
And very recognizable as that Mercedes AMG GT.
Does it have a manual or automatic paddle-shifted transmission?
Yeah, it's got a paddle shift gearbox, but it's a pneumatic gearbox, so it still has a clutch. And it's just got the straight cut gears.
Got you.
So it's a sequential box. So you've got the paddles on the steering wheel.
And what kind of motor has it got in it?
It's got the bi-turbo. The GT4 has the bi-turbo.
The GT4 bi-turbo. How big is the motor and how much horsepower does it turn out?
Well, he's not going to give up his secrets.
4.4 liter.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Say again?
Yeah. No, it's the 4.4 liter, and it's supposed to put out somewhere around 400 horsepower. We actually are restricted compared to the street car, and they do that with air intake restrictors, and it's for what's called balance of performance. So we've got to race against like the Cayman, which that car doesn't quite have the power capability that the AMG GT does. So we're kind of limited on power based on what the other cars are in the series.
Right. I'm not trying to give up any secrets here. I'm just trying to get an idea of the power of the car, and is it paddle shifted? Is it standard? And clearly, I assume that it has slicks on it and not street tires.
Yes, slicks.
Okay.
And then we have, of course, when it rains, we've got full rain tires.
Right.
Those basically look like a mud tire, but it's a treaded tire.
Yeah.
So on the balance of performance, is there a negative to that if you win this event you're at that week? Do they kind of each week they continue to balance you up and down, or is it over a period of time, or is it based on qualifying times?
Yeah, so the series actually does it based on racing, kind of the average lap time across the race, because that's really, at the end of the day, what matters. And they don't really change it too often through the season. maybe 2 to 3 times, I think, maximum across 9 to 10 races. So it's not there's not going to be many changes. But if there's a car that's kind of a standout, they'll pull it back a little bit. Usually they'll give it a little bit of weight. They'll change the boost calculations on the engine. That's one of the things they do with the GT. Or they can change the air intake restrictor, which will drop the power down.
It sounds to me
the whole idea is to create some parity in the racing to keep it more interesting, because
Correct.
That way somebody that's got a ton of money doesn't run off with everybody because he can afford different technology.
Yeah, and it's a way to keep all these different kinds of cars, especially in like the GT4 series. We've got like the McLaren 570S, the Cayman GT4, the Mercedes, the Aston Martin Vantage, Mustang GT4. So there's all these different types of vehicles that are all joined into that category. Yeah. And like you said, there needs to be some sort of parity to keep the racing interesting.
I can only imagine trying to get all these cars through tech, because that's really what it's all about, is trying to keep the parity and have nobody cheating on it.
Right.
Totally. Yeah, and they do a pretty good job.
And
Yep.
That's the reason that they use the balance of performance, is they want to bring as many brands in to the series as they can. And you're running flat sixes, V8s, V12s, turbo V8s, and how do they keep them all where they're close to each other? And then it brings it down more to the skills of the driver. If they can keep the cars somewhat equal. There's
just
never
keeps
really,
it more interesting, because you don't know automatically, well, so-and-so's going to win because he's got the biggest, baddest car. It could be anybody.
No, we want Alec to win.
Well, right. There you go.
Well, and it's really it's really more about driver skill and finesse than anything else. So how many races in the season? I understand this is a little bit skewed season, but in a typical season, when we don't have COVID and postponements and that sort of stuff, in a typical season, how many races are there? And give us some of the venues.
Yeah, so there's generally about 10 events per year. We'll race at tracks like Mid-Ohio, Road America, Laguna Seca, Road Atlanta, VIR. So a bunch of different places all across the country. And that's in the IMSA series. We were supposed to go to Lime Rock this year. That got changed out. We'll race at Sebring, Daytona. So the Roval, of course, they're actually adding this year. They added the Charlotte Roval to the GTD category. So they're trying to get a bit more of that crossover between sports car racing and stock car. That's really cool.
Have you made any headway over at COTA? Have you got an event planned there, or have you raced there before?
Yeah, I actually just raced there about 2 weeks ago in the GT3 car, so in a different series.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So you run in GT3 and GT4?
Yes.
So what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, for sure. So the GT4 cars are, again, definitely more like the street car. The GT3 car has a lot more downforce, a bigger tire, more suspension changes that you can make. The roll bars have a lot more adjustability. The shocks have more adjustability. The control arms are a lot different. The whole car is just kind of that next level up.
Does it have a wing on it?
So, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you can go a lot faster in the 3 than you can the 4. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So that's one of the challenges too with the car, because the GT4 car isn't as aero dependent. Although they both have a wing and a splitter, the GT3 car has like a diffuser, splitter that's quite a lot bigger, wing that's quite a lot bigger. So it makes the racing a bit more challenging, because once you get up close behind another car in the draft, it takes that downforce off the car, which makes it challenging to pass the car in front of you.
And you've named all of the courses that you go at. Now, we know you did some European stuff as well. I think that was last year. In the United States, do you have a favorite course over some of the others? Do you have one you dislike more than the others?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily have a favorite course. I kind of love driving at all tracks. I think courses that kind of sit well with me, because I've spent a lot of time at them, are like Circuit of the Americas and Mid-Ohio. Those are tracks I always seem to do pretty well at, and they just fit my driving style. I really enjoy them. But I love Laguna Seca as well, and Barber Motorsports Park. VIR is a fun one. So it's hard to really pick a favorite, because they all have their own kind of individual characteristics that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But I think tracks that I've spent more time at are probably the ones that, I would consider favorites.
Any kind of world famous turn that is more intimidating? Because I always hear about the corkscrew at Laguna Seca being kind of crazy because you're basically diving off a building, like a 10-story building.
Sure.
I think
that one is definitely one that's continuously almost like a gut check, like you're going through a roller coaster. Once you do it about 10 times, you kind of get a feel for it. But those first few times, it's definitely an interesting experience. Yeah, and I think the S's at VIR are kind of similar in the sense that you're going up and you're doing, in the GT3 and GT4 really, you're doing about 120 to 140 mile an hour depending on the car, and you're just flat out going through S's.
And VIR is kind of a narrow track by comparison, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely that section. There's only one line through there. So if you're off the line, you're generally off the track. So there's little room for error. Yeah.
Well, Alex, so what is the next event that you've got coming up?
Yeah, in 2 weeks, we race at Road Atlanta with the GT4 car. So we'll be heading down there, and I think we just have the one event, just one race that weekend.
Is that a Sunday event?
It'll actually be, I believe, a Friday event.
A Friday event.
Yeah. So the way they usually plan the Road Atlanta rounds, it's usually the final round of the season, and then there's a banquet following. So they kind of kept those dates, but we still have races after.
Yeah. So you're going to have a Saturday, Sunday hoedown after the race, so to speak. Well, all right. So on a typical race, we'll use this one as an example. So you're going to race on Friday. When will you leave Houston to go there, and will the car arrive at the same time as you do? Are you with the car in the transport?
No, so the cars will generally leave 2 days before the scheduled arrival date. So we'll get there on Tuesday to set up the tents and get everything all ready to go.
Sure.
Then Wednesday we'll have practice. Thursday we'll have another practice maybe, and then qualifying, and then Friday we'll race.
Man, can I be you? I want to be you. I don't want to be me anymore, okay?
Well, you can come up to our go-kart track. You can pretend to be me.
Yeah, and speaking of that, before we let you go, tell everybody about your go-kart track because, unfortunately, I have yet to go, but it's up off of 59.
I've seen it. I've seen it through the trees.
Yeah, we're up off of South Loop 336 in Conroe.
Okay.
So we're about 20 minutes from Spring, 20 minutes from the Woodlands area. And the track kind of all spawned out of a desire to bring motorsports close to home. So we helped with the development of the go-kart track down in Angleton at MSR Houston as well. I worked there in a shop for a number of years in high school. And then about when I graduated from college, we were really looking at finding a place where we could bring motorsports close to home and have people be able to come and race in a place that's, closer than an hour and a half away. So that's where the whole idea for the place spawned. And so now we've got this rental go-kart track. We run league races, so you're interested in getting into competition. You've got a place to come and really, it's like $65 for a race weekend. We've got prizes that we run from as well. And, it's a great place to just dip your toe into motorsports. We are starting up a youth academy as well, where we're going to do some driver training for kids 12 to 15. And then we're also going to run a youth league in congruence with that. So we've been doing that. We have a development. There's a shop up there now that's a full exotic kind of repairs. It does paint body, engine work, transmissions, kind of the whole thing. So it's really just a motorsports development center, and we just want to be able to bring everything in connection with motorsports, automotive, kind of all into one place up in close to home for us.
So, Alec, clearly that the track has got a website. What is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's HoustonKartingComplex.com.
HoustonKartingComplex.com, okay?
Yeah. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at HKC336.
HKC336. Alec, it's great to talk to you, and best of luck here in a couple of weeks. Let's check back in the middle of winter and see how things are creeping up for next year.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Well,
Always appreciate the time, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Alec Udell, and our local racer and friend of the In Real Time show. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, and Jeff's going to be back with his pre-owned car of the week. That's coming up right after this quick break.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still hasn't stopped. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. We appreciate you joining us on this Saturday, or if you're listening to one of our podcasts, thank you for joining us. Our podcast audience continues to grow at a pretty rapid rate.
Yep, for
and
sure.
we sure appreciate that. At our live show, if you're listening on a podcast, our live show airs every Saturday from 9:30 a.m. until 12 noon. Well, it is time once again for our master behind the scenes most of the time.
Oh.
He comes on the scene.
You're a master behind. Sorry.
Here we go.
I wandered.
Squirrel.
You know, we've been pretty much on track this morning until now.
Is it me?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with Conrad and I, and we're going to try to continue that, if that's
Wonderful.
okay. And so
I've only got like 4
thanks
minutes.
for sitting down, but
I've
you
only
can go back now. And we're gonna
I've only got like 4 minutes. of
Your
that.
time's done.
Okay, I'm going to get started here.
Okay, so what is the car of the week?
It's a 2014 Chevy Silverado dual cab.
Okay.
Pretty popular vehicle.
Yes.
And so what we do, just to let you know, is that we do 3 car reviews during our weekly show. We have a couple of new car reviews, which we do in the second and third hour of the show, for lack of a better term. And then we do a used car review, and Mr. Zekin is in charge of that. So he picks a used car that something that you or I would buy on the used car market, and we kind of give a review of that, so you got an idea of what this is all about.
And generally, they're between 5 and 6 years old. Something affordable, either a new purchase or a vehicle for going back and forth to work. Something that can be maintained easily, but yet not a lot of cost.
Right, and it doesn't have, generally speaking, that many miles on it, considering its age.
And that's a good point, because this one, again, it's a 2014 Chevy Silverado dual cab. The trim levels on this particular year, the LT, the LTZ, High Country, and then the Z71. I didn't know this until researching the vehicle, that they also came up with a WT1 and a WT2, which are work trucks.
Yes.
WT is...
I would see them, and I didn't register what those were.
Right. Steel wheels, plain Jane.
Exactly.
It's a work truck.
Typically a white vehicle. I always call them the white fleet, and I always called them a hoser because they don't have
hose
carpet.
them out because it's
They
got the red mat,
yeah,
or
they have
the
mats
rubber
inside.
mat. So some of the changes from the previous years, not only with the WT and the WT2, the grills have changed, the bumpers have changed. There's been some cosmetic things on the striping and so on, so far as cosmetically. 6.5 foot bed. They increased that from a 5.75 from previous years, and of course that maintains now through the new models, the 6.5s. So that's an improvement. Easy lift gates. Before they were just kind of hard drop down, and now they got the electronic stuff. And you see the commercials all the time where all this electronic stuff and key fob drops.
So this is the
all
first year for all that?
No. This is the last year of the old stuff, and then it moved into the new stuff.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So from 14, 15 on. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, which I always forget to do.
You're going.
Well,
Yeah.
you're
There
doing
you
just
go.
a fine job.
Oh, thank you. So far as what we got there's the vehicle.
Well,
It is a nice vehicle.
we went past the work truck, the white one.
Did we?
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Well, that's actually...
That's not a work truck because when you look at the wheels
Oh,
on
my
it,
God.
that's-
Well, I'll just shut up and you guys just do your thing.
Okay. That's just a Silverado. That's just a plain Jane automatic.
white.
It's silver. It's a silver one.
Okay. Well, now, I'm going colorblind now, too.
but an extremely popular vehicle because they've sold 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 of them
Exactly.
in the year. So they're relatively easy to find on the market as well.
Exactly. And the one you're looking at here, actually, it's got the you can get the factory Nerf bars on here or the Hideaway bars, step bars. So this is a good option, and I like the vehicle. This is actually a fleet side. You can see the bubble side panels or actually over the wheel wells. That was for that year as well. Good improvements on it. I like the interior. The interior has, of course, the center pod. General Motors is known for that. All the touches. So 8-inch touchscreen, 40-20-40 split seat on the front, and then of course you've got the room in the back.
And then at the higher level vehicles, you can get them with a.
That center console that we saw drop down there on that picture, you could actually flip that up and make that a little seat in the middle for your girlfriend.
3-passenger.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
And of course, you got the drink holders. Everything's got drink holders in it. So I like the truck. You can get them loaded up. You can get them plain Jane. This was a V6. It actually is a 4.3 liter. I'm trying to do 5 things at one time. V6 4.3 liter also comes in a V8 5.3 liter, 4.3 versus 5.3. More efficient on the V8.
Yeah, it would be because you're going to have a 6 or even probably an 8-speed transmission would have been available.
285 horsepower, 305 in the torque. So I thought
not
that was
a whole
pretty
lot.
impressive. Not a whole lot. Tow rating for the V6 was 7,200 pounds, and not much more on the V8, even though it's got the bigger motor.
Yeah, but I think the V8 would do it a whole lot better.
Right.
I think the V6 would struggle at 7,000 pounds.
7,600 on the V8. 18 city, 24 highway, 19 combined. This vehicle had a little over 40,000 miles, and it had been in one accident. This vehicle was around 19,900, 22 in that area, depending on who's selling it. New, these vehicles are probably in the low 30s. So
yeah, considering all the rebates and discounts.
How many miles did this one have?
A little over 40.
Oh, that's good, though.
Yeah, it holds. Trucks typically in Texas hold good resale.
But yeah, they do. But still, there's a truck with under 50,000 miles on the odometer, and it's basically right at $20,000.
Right.
I'm all over that.
Yeah, it's a good vehicle. I like it. Smooth ride. Of course, they all are. And then the competitive would be the Toyota Tundra, Ram 1500, and of course the F-150. Yeah, so in that order. So that's it. If you've got an idea for a vehicle, send it to Jeff at In Wheel Time, and we'll take a look at it.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Hey, we'd love to hear your comments or questions. Our email address is info@inwheeltime.com. A splash and go, and we're back with Conrad's local racing shows, cruises, and also the stories making automotive news headlines. So stay with us.
Oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Okay, welcome back. This is the In Wheel Time program on this Saturday for our live broadcast, podcasts throughout the week, one a day, Monday through Friday. Thank you for joining us. Conrad's got a bunch of stuff that's going on. He's going to tell us about that.
Well, just some of the local stuff. Tonight at HMP is the 8th Mile Battle Royale at the drag strip. And then the Kima Car Show meet is also tonight. It starts at 6 p.m. down in Kima.
Is that the Home Depot?
Yes.
The Home Depot.
And then Driver City Roadhouse meet in Tomball at 6 p.m. So, you got north side, south side going on. And then as well, Nifty 50s is on this weekend. So up in the Woodlands and off of Grogan's Mill is Randy Shannon and the Nifty 50s crew. Now, tomorrow is down at Cars and Coffee for a Cause in the Woodlands, and that's at 6:30 a.m. And then when you're finished with that, you can head to Chrome and Coffee at Prince's Hamburgers, and that's I am talking about Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, did I not say Sunday? I apologize. Yeah. So Sunday, Prince's Hamburgers, and that's Chrome and Coffee. You can come on out, and Don will be signing autographs.
Why would I do that?
And maybe he'll do pictures of his Corvette.
So people could take my signature and go buy a house with it or something.
Maybe go in and
or maybe rob my banking account.
Trade it in to have an opportunity to use the restroom in Prince's. But that's becoming a pretty cool meet. Some real nice cars are showing up for that, and it's just kind of starting up. Again, we ask everybody to behave when you show up for something like that, and we're asking that everybody wears masks. Freddie's Kerry Kirkley and. Is going to be at Freddy's as well for his 3rd annual spring car show, and that's at the Freddy's Frozen Custard in Spring off of 2920 and Kirkendall, and that's actually going to be a judged show. And then Sunday night, Freddy's at 1960 in Eldridge, and then October 17th is out at Houston Motorsports Park at the NASCAR Short Track Racing Series, the Boobs Rock show. Boobs, really?
Yeah, Boobs Rock.
Boobs Rock show.
Yeah, it's a powder puff eco stock race with the women.
Oh, cool. Well done, Gina.
I know, isn't it?
Dollar dogs, dollar beers.
Listen, it's all good.
Jeff's auditioning.
Jeff's auditioning off camera. Thank God it's off camera.
And then local dirt track stuff that's going on. The Cotton Bowl is going to have stuff, but that's not until the 16th.
Cotton Bowl Speedway?
Cotton Bowl Speedway in Page.
Okay.
It's kind of local. It's a cool track, though.
The hell? Local?
The 105
Go to Beaumont or something.
The 105 Speedway in Cleveland is going to have races tonight. The Texana Speedway in Edna is going to have races on the 10th, and the Gulf Coast Speedway in Alvin is going to have races on the 10th.
Yeehaw. All right. I got a couple of stories I'll squeeze in here, make it a little Ford segment. Ford recalling more than 700,000 vehicles in North America because of a poor electrical connection that may cause the rear view camera to display intermittently a blank or distorted image, kind of like this show, increasing the risk of a crash. Recall vehicles are from the 2020 model year, and they include the Ford Edge, the Escape, Expedition, Explorer, F-150, 250, 350, 450, 550. The Mustang Ranger and the Transit vehicles as well.
Everything they sell.
Sounds like the theme to Scary Movie 6.
Including the 2020 Lincoln Corsair and the Nautilus. So if you got a Ford product made in 2020...
It just got recalled.
It's 2020. What do you expect?
They want you. Dealers will be notified starting November 7th and will replace the rear view camera free of charge. Thank you, Ford, for that headache. And also, Ford is lowering the price of its electric Mustang Mach E before the thing even comes out, between $1,000 and $3,000, depending on the trim, as it prepares to launch the vehicle later this year. That's that SUV electric
Mustang.
Right. Yeah, well, it's called a Mustang.
It's got seen pictures of it. It's kind of got a Mustang-ish front end
look to it, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, I know all the Mustang people are just going nuts. It's kind of like when Dodge went Charger and made a 4-door out of it.
F-150 pickup's newest powertrain option for 2021 will also be its most powerful. Ford said Tuesday the F-150's optional 3.5-liter Power Boost V6 hybrid will generate 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque, topping the output of the truck's other optional 5 engines. Torque figure would be the highest in the truck's history. 2021 F-150 will be able to tow up to 14,000 pounds.
Wow.
800 more than the current model and have a maximum payload of 3,325 pounds. The redesigned F-150 set to hit the showrooms in November. Each engine option will come with a mobile generator. The hybrid pickup comes standard with a 2.4 kilowatt output generator enough to power a jackhammer Well, we got to have that in the back, and a compact cement mixer. That's for you.
There you go.
In all instances, power can be accessed through in-cabin outlets and up to 4 outlets in the bed. So bring an oven and cook a TV dinner.
Well, I was going to say, with that kind of power output, if we lose power at the house, it'll probably be able to run a few of the components at your house to keep your refrigerator from going funky.
Yeah, well, the refrigerator or freezer. Okay. All right, well, that's it for this hour. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the top of the hour next.
If Baby could talk, she'd say a lot. You'd know what she's thinking and what makes her happy. But unfortunately, Baby can't talk or remind you you're the one taking her to daycare today, and she won't speak up if you drive straight to work like any other day and never think to look in the backseat. Every year, dozens of kids die from heat stroke in cars. No one is perfect, so set a reminder and always look before you lock. Where's Baby? Paid for by NHTSA.
From Studio A in Texas, USA, it's the award-winning All Things Automotive Car Talk Show in real time. And just ahead, a review of our new car of the week, the 2020 Nissan Versa, this week in automotive history, and stories making automotive news headlines, including a few guests. That and more just ahead on today's In Wheel Time Car Show for Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin sitting off camera this morning. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us. We really appreciate it. And we're going to get right to our guest, and his name is Corey Woodside, and he is with Vintage Motor Works in Beaumont, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. And Corey, it's great to see you. I love the poster, and you're looking pretty good yourself. We appreciate that look. How's that? Is that okay? Without me trying to insult you anymore. I didn't mean that, but it's good to have you here anyway.
Thank you. I've always been told to have the face for radio. So
well,
welcome to the club.
Exactly.
That's all of us. Yeah, that's why we have this show, just so we can kind of hide, for the most part, behind the curtain. So, Corey, Vintage Motor Works in Beaumont. Give me a little background. Give me some history.
I've been in business almost 10 years. We do a little bit of everything from basic maintenance to full frame off restorations, LS swaps, Crown Vic swaps, custom paint. If you want it done, we'll do it. So
in other words, you're the next Motor Trend car show that they're going to have over from Beaumont, Texas. I mean, we got the guys from Austin. We got folks in Dallas. We just don't have anybody from Beaumont yet. It looks like you're set to go.
Sounds good to me.
So tell me a little bit about your shop. How many square feet? How many employees? And give me some, for instance, what do you got cooking out in the shop right now?
Right now, I've got a 51 Chevy pickup, 5-window that we just put a 383 stroker in with the fuel injection and vintage AC and paintless wiring harness. Got a 53 5-window that we're doing a complete frame off on, all original, the straight 6. I've got a 77 Bronco that came in a couple weeks ago from Colorado that we're doing a bunch of body work and mechanical work to, and custom paint. I've got a 85 Mazda B2000 that we've put a 80s model Ford 302 with an automatic transmission in.
Oh, that'll be a...
Yeah, expand on that one a little bit, Corey. You were showing me that one whenever I was over there the other day.
Yeah, from a great customer of mine. He bought the truck brand new, and he's driven it all over the country, and it had a lot of sentimental value. And the 4-cylinder had gone out on it. He couldn't drive the standard anymore because of his leg with the clutch, so he decided he wanted something a little bit more, and we talked him into going with the Fox Body 302. Nothing too crazy, just a mild cam and a little port and polished heads, and just something fun to get him around town.
Yeah,
that sounds really. So
if you look at it, I mean, it's kind of, it's well used, shall we say? It's showing its miles on the body on it, so it's kind of a sleeper.
Well, I have a friend of mine that's got a B2000, and I'll tell you what, they didn't do too well in rust prevention on those trucks, and most of them have melted away, but apparently this one is pretty cool. It looks like we're going to go on a little tour.
Oh, good. Going to show us some stuff out in the shop.
You have to excuse me. This is my first Zoom meeting, so I'll do my best. But this is the Mazda.
Oh, nice. I'm surprised that motor actually fits under the hood.
Wasn't the B2000, wasn't that also a sister to the Ford Ranger, or was that the one just before that?
This is before they came out with the Ranger and the Mazda that were the same.
Okay.
So Corey, the Victoria swaps you're doing, you had one out in front of the shop, and then you had one that you were working on, with the Crown Victorias.
I've got two over here I can show you. The one that I showed you out front, the step side, I've got it right here.
So what are you swapping onto a Crown Victoria?
This is a 67 Ford F100 step side body.
And the whole body fits on because the wheelbase is close enough?
Yes, sir.
Oh, how cool. I never realized that. What a good idea that is, because you get all of the ride and handling of a Crown Vic.
Of a police car.
And the body of what appears to be an old beater truck.
Yeah. I love that. So did you have to do any massaging to the frame?
Not on the step side. We took a little bit off the front where the bumpers go and the rear. And besides that, it fits pretty well.
How funny.
This one we built it was a Rush. It's one of my vehicles. It was sitting out in the field for over 30 years, and it was a parts truck. And so I decided one of the car shows I sponsor, I wanted to build something real quick. So we slapped it together 2 weeks while working on customers' vehicles.
This place over here called Vintage Motorworks in Beaumont, this looks like the kind of place that we could take an actual road trip. I mean, literally get a bunch of guys in some really nice cruiser-type cars, and we come over there and knock on your door on Sunday morning about 10 o'clock, have us some crawfish and a few beers, and just hang out over there and tour your shop. You good with that?
That sounds like a good time to me.
Because we know how you Beaumont people are. Mike Mars over here has introduced us to the culture, and it seems like everybody's always welcome.
Most definitely.
And you guys have, there's a number of shows over there in Beaumont on a pretty regular interval. There's a Beaumont cruise-in. There's a Nederland cruise-in. There's one up in...
You almost said Needville, didn't you?
I know, I almost said Needville. And then there's also one up in Lumberton. So there's enough. There's a pretty good car culture going on over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this area that we love our classic cars. So,
do you guys ever you've got to know car clubs and groups over there. Any of you guys ever come over to Houston just to kind of stir the pot a little bit over here?
I don't know about stirring the pot, but I know some of them, they go out there. I've got a lot of customers that go out there just to enjoy what the shows out there and the different food and stuff like that. And I know a few car clubs locally that are nationwide, and they go all over to support the rest of their clubs. So
now that would be a great club in itself, the out-of-town cruisers. Right? So he's got clubs or a few clubs or maybe just one club over there in Beaumont. They come over here, party with us a little bit, one weekend, and then a couple weekends, maybe a month later, we gather up some folks. We go over there and party with them.
Well, and Prince's would be a good location for them to come to because it starts a little bit later in the morning, gives them time to come to town and
not only that, but it also includes some freeway driving, if you get my drift.
Well, that's part of the cruise. A lot of clubs, they want to go for a ride somewhere and get their cars out on the highway.
Yeah, and Mr. Mars can actually show his legs here and get some on-ramp acceleration tests with whatever he's driving. So I want to know, what is the connection between Corey and Mars? How did you guys meet?
I actually saw some of the stuff he was doing on Facebook, and then I tied him in. The Spindletop Rod Run is like coming up on 30 years, I believe, isn't it, Corey? Something like that?
Something like that. I don't know the exact time.
So I used to cover them when I was doing freelance work. It's a big rod club. They were pretty big pre-hurricane. They've kind of gotten down smaller. I think they have like 150, 200 cars at their annual event. And Corey's one of their sponsors and stuff. So our paths kind of cross without realizing it.
Yo, look at this one behind you.
Yeah, I would just kind of, well, first of all, the red caught my eye, and then I see what it is. Give us a little tour of that red rod you got behind you.
So this is a 36 Ford Coupe, 383 stroker.
Man, that is beautiful. Oh, my gosh, look at that
nice
interior.
too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you do this?
Do you do the interior work as well?
I did not on this car. The customer bought it this way. It came in. We had to pull the motor and fix all it. Basically, if it had held fluid, it was leaking, and fix the AC and fix some frame work that needed to be done. Because whoever built it, it looks good, but it needed quite a bit of work. And so we've been trying to get it to where it's roadworthy and fun to drive again.
Well, Corey, we need to take a quick break. We want you to hang on for just a second, and while we do this, because I want to learn a little bit more about you, so stay with us. Sorry, I've had a little...
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You know, I used to be a little bit more ambidextrous than I am this morning. I knew there would be something going wrong, but yeah. So I'm pushing the wrong button and the wrong slide fader and all that sort of thing.
And we go quiet for about 10 seconds.
It's like yeah, one of those.
Makes it easier to edit.
But he was quick to pot us down so you couldn't hear us, even though we were quiet. We're talking because we're trying to save him from being silent on the air.
So welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show. We really appreciate you joining us today. Our guest is Corey Woodside. He's with Vintage Motorworks over in Beaumont, Texas, and we really appreciate it. So, Corey, I wanted to ask you, how did you get involved in all of this? Have you always been a car guy like the rest of us?
Yes, sir. Grew up working on our old stuff. You know, growing up, my dad didn't take cars to mechanics. We fixed it ourselves, and I learned to weld when I was 10, learned to drive a standard when I was 11, and just kind of been going at it, you know, like that. I had another shop about 20 years ago before I got in the dealerships, and after doing that, I decided I wanted to get back into having my own shop, and so here I am.
So, I mean, did you actually go to any like a UTI or some sort of school or anything, or is this all kind of like us, just do it yourself?
I did go to Lamar University, Lamar Institute of Technology for diesel mechanics for a few years. I was already a diesel mechanic, but I just wanted to get the certification and learn as much as I could. So I did that. But the hot rods and the paint and body and the fabrications, all just self-taught.
And Lamar is the facility over there in the Golden Triangle that really does feed the automotive industry. They're somewhat well known within the Golden Triangle for being a place to go to find.
And they're also nationally known for their engineering, and that's part of all of that.
Interesting.
So
what engineering and nursing.
What dealerships did you work at?
I worked for Classic Chevrolet. I worked for Philpott Ford. I was a shop foreman for Allen Samuels when it was still around. Okay. Mike Smith.
Oh, what years did you work at Classic and Mike Smith?
Wow. I was at Classic, I guess about 12, 15 years ago, and Mike Smith was right after that.
Oh, well, we may have crossed paths. I was the GM field engineer that called on a Classic 12 to 15 years ago. So we probably did cross paths at some point.
Probably so.
Well,
so what about the little Volkswagen you got sitting back there behind you, the little two-tone?
So this actually came in from Minnesota on a transport truck a few weeks ago. We're going to do a fuel injection swap on it. We're going to do disc brake conversion, repaint it, do some interior work, things like that. Change out all the lights. The lady, wants her to be her daily driver. So
now how in the world did somebody in Michigan learn about vintage motor? Vintage Motor Works in Beaumont. How did she learn that?
Word of mouth. I have customers from Florida and from Arizona. I've had 2 from Canada. So I actually get more work from out of town and out of state than I do locally.
Well, congratulations. It must mean, the customers that you have taken care of have been pretty happy, because that word of mouth is so valuable today, especially in the automotive business. It can help you or it can kill you.
Yeah, exactly. And like I was saying earlier, I've got a 77 Bronco that came in from Colorado. I've gotten quite a few from the Colorado area and Houston and Dallas and Lake Charles. The red 36 Ford behind me is from Lake Charles. So.
You didn't get any 77 Broncos from Los Angeles that are white in color, did you?
No, sir, I haven't.
Yeah, you get my humor in that, I assume.
Yes, sir. I actually had a customer was about to bring his all-original 58 Porsche to me from somewhere. I don't know much about California. I apologize, but it got burned and it's just a pile of ash now. But he was in the process of getting a transport truck to bring it to me to do a full restoration on when it burned down a couple weeks ago.
What a shame.
Yeah, it's a loss.
A lot of cars were lost out there. I followed a number of them. Couple of big collections were lost.
So, so any other cars that you want to point out to us? We like looking.
Yeah, we're looky-loos.
Like I said, this is the Bronco from Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a nice-looking Bronco, too.
I've got a 94 that's been in the storage building for 10-plus years that we got to do the rust repair and rebuild the motor and transmission and all interior.
So it's kind of a garage find.
Yeah. And this is a 69 F100 that long wheelbase that we're doing on a Crown Vic swap. We're having to extend the frame rails to hold the truck and –
I find that fascinating because when I was driving Ford trucks, I like to go down with them instead of going up. And the way the front suspension is set up on those with the torsion bars, it was really hard to get them to drop all the way down unless you ripped it out and redid it. And to me, that Crown Victoria setup, you can go in there with an air suspension, you got the motor, you got the ride. To me, that's fascinating.
Well, plus the chassis are somewhat available because it's a pretty popular car,
right.
Not only in the private industry, but you're looking at, you're going to look at some old police cars and some old taxi cars that are still going to be out there. There's actually a whole industry of rebuilding them.
Talk about building a sleeper truck.
Yeah.
So, Corey, how many guys you got working with you?
Right now, I just have 3. It's hard to find good help nowadays. Last year, I had 6. I had to get rid of a couple of them.
Are you a hard guy to work for?
No, I try to be as understanding and as laid back as I can be. But, if you're stealing from me or you're just not doing the job very well, I'm not going to keep you on.
Well, of course. Yeah. That would go with anything. So do you have a shop dog?
I did, but
he got stolen by your employees.
Well, no, he was chewing up the wires and tail lights on trailers and getting on the hoods of cars, and so I had to bring him home and just put him in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I did a piece a couple of months ago about animals eating the electrical wires in some cars because they've gone with a soy-based coating on them. So I'm sure your dog was just munching away on them.
Well, we knew we would pull.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah, that's a new one on us. Well, Corey, it is great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's Vintage Motor Works in Beaumont. So, website, Facebook page, how do we get a hold of you?
Yes, sir. We have a website, vintagemotorworks.us. We have a Facebook page. We're on Instagram, a little bit of Twitter, and there's a couple others I I don't really know off the top of my head.
Because somebody else probably does it for you.
They helped me with it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great to talk to you. Hey, let's get together soon. Let's do one of those swapping kind of car show cruise-in things one of these days.
Sounds awesome.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Corey
Corey.
Woodside, Vintage Motor Works in Beaumont, Texas. We continue the In Wheel Time show in just a couple of seconds. If you'd like to feature your car-related business on our show, shoot us an email. The address is info@inwheeltime.com. Coming up, we're going to review the redesigned Nissan Versa, tell you all about that, my experience behind the wheel, after a quick stop here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. Way to go, Don.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Thanks for joining us for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. Glad that you could make it along. We really appreciate that. Time now for this hour's car review, and I had a chance to drive the 2020 Nissan's Versa. Is it the Versa?
Versa.
It's the Sentra, sorry. It's the Nissan Sentra. See there? I had the Versa, and I crossed it out and put Sentra. I had to look because I've had both.
Yeah, because he teased the Versa.
Jeff, don't worry about the video.
You know, it's been stressful. Or I've drank too much, or I haven't had enough sleep.
Or all three.
Tourette's or something. I don't know. But
no video.
So, is that what it, so
it's the wrong car.
That's the Versa.
Okay, so we're not going to have the showpiece called the Nissan Sentra. Well, I'm sorry. So the available trim levels are going to be the S, the SV, and the SR. I had the 2.0 liter SR CVT. So you get the chance to look at me as I do this car review.
Yeah, buddy.
Now, this is considered a mid-size car.
Sentra is a mid-size?
Sentra is now a mid-size car.
It's
well, what
still
they
compact.
call it's still a compact.
Yeah.
Because the Versa would be the subcompact
right.
in my mind. 5 passengers, completely redesigned for 2020, by the way. So sharp-looking grille with the chrome accent, very familiar look, but it's a new twist to the old Nissan theme.
I thought it looked very good when you had it.
I did too.
Car.
Exactly, and I wish that I could show it to you.
You have to take our word for it.
You know, I was all
good
excited about today's show, and I knew something would screw it up, and guess who did?
Off the rails.
Me. Attractive side sculpting on it, rear deck spoiler, 18-inch alloy wheels on the upper trim, distinctive lower valance at the bottom of the rear bumper. What I liked about it, the overall modern look. They really modernized this thing. It really is a good-looking car. Now, what could use improvement? Not a fan of this two-tone blacked-out roof option that they have, making it a two-tone car.
But that floating roof that Nissan's been doing.
See, they've gone away with the floating roof, which was a little black strip between the actual roof
and
that went across there in the C-pillar. They've done away with that. Now they just painted the roof black.
Didn't like it.
I'm just not a big fan. Just keep it all one color, please. Interior, attractive quilted pattern seat upholstery on the upper trim levels, contrasting stitching on the dash and trim, faux carbon fiber accent in the cabin. This is an upscale car, really. It has become that. Infotainment system is easy to use, cargo trunk room adequate and competitive for its size. What I liked about it, I think it gets high marks for the comfort level inside this car. What could use improvement? A little bit more lumbar support for old men. 2.0 liter inline 4-cylinder engine with only 149 horsepower and 146 pound-feet of torque. But there's a payoff. With the CVT transmission, it gets 28 miles per gallon city, 37 on the highway. For a combined of 32, I got 37.6 miles per gallon over 332.1 miles. What I liked about it, mileage.
Yeah, no kidding. And good looking.
Yeah, what could use improvement? Maybe a little more power through maybe a hybrid option. I don't know. Of course, all that would add,
weight and price.
Cost,
the money. Ride and handling, comfort level is high in this car. I really like this car. What could use improvement in the ride and handling? Nothing. It's great. Base trim price, $21,430. Price is tested. This is the loaded up version now. $25,825. How do you go wrong with that?
Yeah, really, just a $4,000
The base model price is $20,370. Competitors: Toyota Corolla, $20,050. Honda Civic, $22,250. And the Hyundai Elantra for $20,050. So they're all right there. But I think that if you shop these other brands and look, price comparison, all of that, I think that you're going to go for this car, the 2020 Nissan Sentra.
Our youngest back in the day, whenever we were getting kids started, she found one and picked out one. I mean, it was a Sentra.
When you were getting kids started?
For driving. Oh. And it had the manual gearbox. It had a 4-speed in it, and it was white. I mean, it was pretty plain Jane. But she drove the crap out of that thing.
And forever.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Time now for the racing calendar, the National Racing Calendar. Conrad.
So IndyCars this weekend is at Indy Road Course, which is the old Formula One road course where they go the other direction and turn left and right. Yeah, they ran yesterday. They'll run again today, and I think they'll run final is tomorrow is today, and then 2 weeks they'll be at St. Petersburg, Florida. Formula One, the Eiffel Grand Prix.
Eiffel? As in Eiffel Tower?
As in Eiffel Tower, except they're going to run it at the Nürburgring in Germany. But
what? The hell? Is somebody smoking something, or what is that?
NASCAR is at Talladega tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And that's Dega. Is going to be a lot of fun. The other good news is, if you read any of the news in automotive, that NASCAR is coming to Circuit of the Americas up in Austin, and that is going to be on the 23rd of the 23rd of May of 2021. So hopefully when 2020 is behind us, we'll see NASCAR at COTA. That should be a lot of fun. And then also next weekend, NASCAR is going to be at Charlotte. IMSA is going to be at Charlotte next weekend. And then NHRA today and tomorrow, they're in Madison, Illinois, which ultimately is St. Louis for the Midwest Nationals. And then on the 18th, they're going to be at Ennis. And then on the 25th, they're going to be 24th and 25th, they're going to be in Baytown. So they're going to be local and close. And we'll be talking with Seth Angel here in a little bit to see what's going on at NHRA at Baytown. And then the finals for NHRA is going to be November 1st in Las Vegas this year instead of Pomona.
Because they're not going to extend the season to Pomona. Yeah.
So lots of good stuff going on. One of the other things in international racing is Honda is pulling out of Formula One at the conclusion of the 2021 year, which is going to leave a couple of teams without engines. So they'll have to figure out what to do because Honda provides engines for the Red Bull team.
And I got that story as well. So my question is, if they're pulling out of Formula One with the Honda engines, what about IndyCar?
Yeah, because and Honda's actually been a bit of a dominant force in IndyCar the last couple of years, and to a large degree have displaced Chevrolet as the primary engine provider.
Well, it's only Chevy and IndyCar.
Yeah, but there's more people running Hondas than are running Chevys, and that's kind of a flip over the last few years.
I think they need to bring back some of those old classic engine builders from the day.
Cosworth.
Ilmore and Cosworth and all those guys.
Well, to a large degree anymore, IndyCars is a bit of a spec series. You can have a Honda motor or a Chevy motor, but it's basically one chassis. But it's one fast chassis. So, IndyCar.
Back to all that parity and what works.
And that's what they're trying to do. When we were talking to Alec, was talking about how do you make it about the driver and less about the car with the balance of performance. Well, they do the same balance of performance at IndyCar between the Hondas and the Chevys, and then they either add weight or air restrictors.
Well, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. And Wheel Time Car Show continues after this quick break.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Zekin. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com.
This is the award-winning car talk show, In Wheel Time, your weekly go-to all things automotive place. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin sitting right over there. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us on this Saturday. And, of course, my buddy Seth Angel at Houston Motorsports Park was supposed to join us, and we're trying to reach him as we speak. Busy guy, and he's getting ready for the big drag race coming up here in a few weeks. And so there's that. But I do have something in the racing world that I would like to share with you, and that is my favorite place in the whole wide world is Houston Motorsports Park, and another race coming up. That's going to be in 2 weeks, October the 17th, and this race that's coming up is called Boobs Rock. I love it.
Thanks, Gina.
Gina Child-Knowles, the promoter out there, a good friend of mine, I'm proud to say, came up with Boobs Rock. And it is a breast cancer awareness race, if you will. And along with that is going to be a powder puff eco-stock race, Boobs Rock.
Oh, okay.
See, I thought you were going to be out there topless with your man boobs.
Again. And those are moobs, thank you. But at any rate, so that's going to be on October the 17th. All classes of racing will be out there that particular day. But also Rod Ryan's show Cares.
He had a car built.
Yeah.
And he's going to be out there from the radio station. If you haven't been out to Houston Motorsports Park, you need to go because it is a fun time, and they put on good racing.
Hot dogs, dollar beers, woo!
That's Jeff back over there.
Yeah.
Dollar dog, dollar beer. We can't beat it.
That's it. And it's family friendly. There's always tons of kids there.
And they usually do a flyover.
They're not going to do a fly. Well, we don't know, but gates open at 5. Racing starts at 6. And reason being is because the sun continues to set
earlier and
earlier. So we're thinking maybe not. And I talked to her about that. I asked her that question. She said, I'm not sure because of it's the commemorative Air Force that does the flyovers, and they've been doing a great job. And the crowd loves it, and they fly over.
Cool planes, too.
And somehow they managed to time all of that. So right at the end of the national anthem, there they go right across the track. It's really cool. How they time it, I don't know, but they seem to manage to get all that done.
They don't use
they use the in-wheel time.
And he laughs at his own jokes.
Somebody has to. Nobody else will.
That's right.
Oh, Lord. Tickets are available at NASCARHouston.com, and I can tell you it's $15 for adults and I think $5 for kids. It's a great value, and every race now throughout the summer since, COVID, there's been more and more people, and we had an absolute riot last time. As a matter of fact, the people out there started the wave. Remember the wave? Everybody gets up.
Yeah.
They were doing that up and down the stands. It was so cool. And yes, we all stand for the national anthem, and we bow our heads in prayer before the race. And the drivers are all behind it, and they get out there and do the driver introductions. It is a symbiotic relationship between the drivers and the crowd, and it is great local fun.
And you're welcome to wander through the pits before the races and stuff as well.
You got to have a pit pass to do that.
It's small cost.
Yeah. So, but it is a great time to be had by all, and I encourage you to come on out there. Also, still no Seth? What in the world has happened to that boy? He's probably sleeping in. He says, yeah, I told him that the other day when I tried to set up this interview. He says, yeah, there's none of that. He's got the 2 girls, so that's not.
No sleeping in, huh?
Yeah, there's no sleeping in. So at any rate, I did want to mention the fact that coming up tomorrow, and going to be the first Sunday of every month, is my buddy Craig Bierman, who we all know on this show with Speed and Sport Chrome Plating. His first Sunday of every month cruise in is called Chrome and Coffee. Cars and Trucks Cruise In, 9 a.m. to noon tomorrow, and it's at the old Sharpstown Country Club, which the city bought and is now the Sharpstown Golf Course, over near Bel Air Boulevard and Gessner. Okay, it's really close to that intersection in southwest Houston. 6600 Harbortown Drive is the address over there. As a matter of fact, my buddy Chaz Miller at Channel 13 did a great piece this week on Prince's Hamburgers, which is now located there. So it's a perfect marriage there to have a cruise in Sunday morning. There are a few golfers there, but not many, so uses the parking lot for the cruise in. And Prince's makes breakfast tacos if that's what you want. I had them. They're excellent. But if you wait till like 11 o'clock or so and you're getting ready to get you some of them Prince's burgers and some fresh dipped onion rings and a chocolate shake.
So I love the fresh dipped onion rings. I hate those frozen ones.
Yeah, well, Prince's Burgers has been, how long have they been in Houston?
Since the 1930s.
So you've been eating there the whole time?
Since the day they opened.
Okay. I don't have any of this down today.
That first dollar bill that's hanging up there on the wall is signed by Don Armstrong.
I'm out. That's it. I got it now. Y'all go ahead.
Well, last month, Toyota dealers sold 21,000 Tacomas for its top-selling truck, and they were up 14% compared to September of 19. So the car business, as a business, is doing fairly well in today's market, even with all the COVID stuff. The struggle some of them are having is they're running out of inventory. So when you go by some of the GM stores, they are virtually out of trucks, and it kind of hurt them because Ram, again, passed Chevrolet to become the number 2 truck seller in the month of September. And, F-150 is perennially the top seller, and they sold about 250,000 trucks, Ford did, in September. Ram sold 156,000 trucks in September, and Chevrolet only sold 147,000 Silverados. So Ram Trucks was number 2 for the month, but they're still about 10,000 vehicles behind for the year. But if they have another couple of months together like they've just had, they're going to surpass Chevrolet to become the number 2 truck seller in the nation.
Who is this?
Ram.
Yeah,
they were number 2 for September.
The Winnie Chrysler dealer, Ram Jeep dealer, the Ford shop closed down about a year and a half ago.
You mean to tell me they have a dealership in Winnie, Texas?
Yes, sir. Right there on the interstate. And he draws people out of Houston, Baytown. He draws them all out of Mid-County. But anyway, so whenever the Ford shop closed down across the highway from him, he bought that. That's where he moved all his used inventory to. Right. And so he expanded and filled that space up with more vehicles, with Jeeps and Rams and Chrysler's products and stuff. And he was blowing and going, and he's down now. You could tell by the way he parks his vehicles. He's got about half the inventory because he's parking them sideways,
spreading them out a little bit,
trying to make it look like it's still full. But I mean, he is. My youngest has bought 2 vehicles from him. The oldest girl, I think her husband bought one from him. I mean, there's a lot of people down there. It's only 23 miles.
Right.
I mean, that's here in Houston. You can't get any place without going 23 miles. Yeah. So he was blowing and going, and so I watch him whenever I go by on the highway, and I can tell by him.
Well, here's some local new car dealer news, which we rarely have. ZT Motors, you ever heard of them?
Mm-mm.
The automotive dealership unit of private equity and wealth management firm ZT Corporate of Houston has purchased 3 Ron Carter Autoland dealerships in Texas as ZT looks to expand in the southeast portion of the United States. The purchase stores in Alvin are Ron Carter Chevrolet Buick GMC, Ron Carter Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and Ron Carter Ford. ZT said it will retain the Ron Carter name.
And the name Ron Carter has been there for 40 years now.
Yeah.
But there is,
it's changed hands several times
Right.
throughout the years. Yeah.
There is no Ron Carter.
No, there never has been a Ron Carter.
It was Ron Slank and Charles Carter, and they put it together as Ron Carter because I called on him with General Motors, and it was funny as heck. Every now and then you get some customer to come in and goes, "Well, I'm going to call Ron Carter and
call him
complain.
personally.
I know him. He's my neighbor." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's just wonderful."
Yes. Whatever happened to Ron Slank? I knew him.
Yep. Just retired out of the car business.
Did he?
And then, and then they also have a DBA, which is doing business as is a Ron Carter Cadillac that is out on I-45, in Webster. So, Ron Carter is a name. There's a Ron Carter CDJR on 45 down in Dickinson as well. There's no Ron Carter Association. They're all separate.
That is
but
so
they all
funny.
continue to do business with. But yeah, there was no Ron Carter. It was Ron Slank and Charles Carter, who were, icons in the car business here in Houston for quite a long time.
I knew Ron Slank. He was a very personable guy.
Very, very nice guy.
Very nice guy.
You know, you were talking about somebody coming in. I'm going to talk to Ron Carter. John Keating, the Keating family. He had Keating Chevrolet down
Keating
there.
Oldsmobile.
Yep.
JK.
Well, JK, John, the guy I worked with, bought a car from John's dealership. He was, he was one of those deals. He was going to go in there, by golly, and he was going to talk to John Keating because he knew John Keating. He walked in that showroom. He started running his mouth. Where's John? I'm going to talk to John. John knows me. And John's sitting over in the corner reading the paper and just kind of looks up over the paper, He didn't know that guy from the Man in the Moon. And he went back to reading his paper. And
the guy never even noticed him.
No, he didn't know him from the Man in the Moon, but he was sure in there talking big. I'm going to talk to John Keating.
And that happens a lot.
And you'll also want to know that the nation's franchised auto luxury and exotic dealerships, new vehicles usually are the stars of the showroom, but with the new vehicle production pipeline squeezed by COVID-19, 2020 has been anything but ordinary for elite brands. Inventories are tight, used models are commanding higher prices, and service has taken on even greater importance. So when you want to go buy your Aston Martin Vantage or whatever it is that you want to buy, you might have a little bit of a problem getting a hold of one of those.
Well, but that's affected all the car industry. Correct. As it happened, the high level cars as well. They don't build as many of them. But when you stop production and for 3 months and the pipeline empties, it takes a while to refill the pipeline.
And it has affected the used car market.
It's gone way up.
Well, it has, although things have started to level out and come back a bit now that car production is trying to catch up.
Right.
But, dealer supplies have been very low. As a matter of fact, the lowest since, I think, memory serves me correctly from the story, it was 2011 was the previous low level of car inventory. So finding a car that you want has been a bit of a challenge if you want something that has, plaid upholstery and a black car, those kind of specific
if you
things.
get kind of picky, then...
Well, it's the law of supply and demand. So as that happens, the price of cars go up. The price of new cars goes up because the inventory is down. And it's not the price goes up, the transaction price goes up because they don't have as many to sell. They're not as willing to discount them. The manufacturers don't have very many of them as well to deliver. So the incentives go down because the day's supply goes down. Then that in turn drives the used car prices up as well. So it's all intermingled with how it affects everything else. And I didn't read that, so I could tell by the look on your face. Mars is in trouble again.
I need my computer to find out if I'm in trouble or not. So, no, I don't need it right now. It's too late.
Yeah.
So, again, the price of used cars got to remember, Hertz dumped 100,000 cars on the used car market back in the summer as Hertz revamped themselves and dumped a whole lot.
Filed for bankruptcy.
And dumped a whole bunch of inventory.
Yeah.
And had that not happened, the price of used cars would be even higher because they put a nice surge of cars into inventory at the auction houses. But auction prices are way up versus what they were, talking to a couple of my friends in the used car industry as well.
All right. Let's take a quick break here, and we're going to regather ourselves, and we'll be right back. This is the In Wheel Time Car Show. Thanks for joining us.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You know, I just have to admit to everybody that this show has kind of always been, but more so since we've moved into Studio A, more about herding cats than it has been about anything else. So I just thought I would mention that. But at any rate, so welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show. Thanks for joining us for this Saturday. Seth texted and said, sorry, he never got a Zoom invite, so that's why he's not joining us. But we're going to try to reschedule him maybe for next weekend.
Yeah, because you don't want to schedule him the weekend after. That's when the track's going to be busy.
If the lights don't go out in the studio. I did pay the bill, but you never know over here in Sugar Land. All right, so there was a very interesting little thing that Conrad posted on our Facebook page, if you're familiar with that. If you're not, go to facebook.com/inwheeltime, and you'll get our feed. And you get there's all sorts of good stuff on there, I have to admit.
A lot of fun stuff.
So there was a thing that, a little story that I thought I'd print out this morning and read to you from Kayla Sue. I got pulled over on I-44 for going 7 miles over the speed limit. As the officer started walking up to my car, I rolled down my window. My adorable and apparently incredibly smart 4-year-old niece started screaming from the back seat, "It's coming out! I can't hold it any longer. It's almost here." So the trooper, hearing her scream, said, as he leans in the window and asks her what's going on here, she looks at him dead in the face and says, "I've got poop coming out."
It's turtling.
So the officer started laughing. Looked like the girl was about to cry. He asked how far I had to go, which was about 2 miles home. He told me to drive safe and get Miss Thang home to do her business. He could not stop laughing as he walked back to the car. As soon as we pulled away, I asked, "What in the world is that about?" Kid smirked and said, "I saw it on YouTube, and I just thought it might work here, too." "Sure." I said, "So you're not pooping?" She said, "No."
And she didn't get a ticket?
Not in trouble either. Oh, my God, the kid's a hero. I thought that was a pretty funny story.
Well, I remember you and I did that on the way to Austin one time.
Pooping?
No, I was speeding.
Who was pooping?
Don was pooping. And the cop let us go. Heck, the cop turned his lights on and got us all the way to Buc-ee's.
I thought
you thought we'd never tell that story. Huh?
I thought for a moment
statute of limitations ran out.
I thought for a moment that my memory had slipped once again, and I forgot that I pooped my pants on the way to Austin, but apparently I didn't. Thank God.
Thank you, Texas Highway Patrol.
Oh, Lord.
gosh.
That was a great story.
That's a great story.
You know, you find some fun stuff. And if you ever get to our Facebook page, there's lots of fun stuff. A lot of fun stuff to read on there. You know, most of it's car related, some of it's not. We do a little bit of music on there because Don has a musical background. Not that he plays music on an instrument. He used to disc music, jockey music, back in the day. That enough? Jeffrey's the only musician here amongst us.
I was going to say that, you know, I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop. Is that
so you're figuring there had to be a cut in there somewhere?
Well, no.
There wasn't yet.
I was going to see where this was going to go because the other one obviously didn't end well either.
Well, but you didn't poop.
I didn't. At least not this time. You know, I think that we could take an early break. And we'd be better served.
You gotta go?
No.
Mars is gonna lose it.
We'd be better served if we just went ahead and took a break.
Okay. So now we just have to wait on the music for the break, right? You weren't prepared to take the break.
Is it poopy music?
As opposed to elevator music? So while we're waiting on that, Ford sales were down 4.9% to end the third quarter.
Nobody cares about that.
Beating
I don't
the
think
industry
at this
declined
point.
by 10%.
They're wanting to see what kind of hole we can dig for the poop.
Oh my gosh, we've lost control.
Well, you know, we tend to do that quite frequently on this program, at least once per show.
And that's why people join us.
Or tune out. That could
Sometimes I wonder if they're laughing with us or laughing at us. Either way, we'll take it.
And by the way, I just wanted to remind you all that your voice can be heard too, if you dare. Just shoot us an email. That's an email and nothing else. The address is info@inwheeltime.com. We're out for a quick splash and go, and we're back with Conrad's This Week in Auto History and stories making automotive news headlines. It's all coming up. God help us.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild-to-wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Do I need to tell them the name of the show? I don't know whether that's safe or not. Welcome back to the In-Wheel
Just
Time
don't give
program.
him the email address.
info@inwheeltime.com because he gets it, and he should get them all. Not me, him. All right. Time now for This Week in Auto History. Conrad always has that for us.
This week in 1908, William Durant merged Buick, Oldsmobile. Eventually, he added Cadillac, Oakland, which was the predecessor to Pontiac, AC Spark Plug, and Fisher Body, and joined them all together and became General Motors. You know, prior to that, they were all individuals, and then brought them all together. 1929. The first cornerstone of the Henry Ford Museum was laid today, and that was the first step into establishing one of the most extensive collections of automotive history in the world. And I think we've all been out there to the Ford Museum. What a great trip! What a great trip that is! What a wonderful place it is to visit. In 1937, Duesenberg was forced to close its doors forever. And Duesenberg was considered the most luxurious car in the world. Handcrafted, custom-made cars that.
What year was this?
1937.
Really? They closed in 1937. Well, of course.
And again, they were the epitome of cars. And the phrase of it's a doozy, the symbol of opulence. What a shame that it had to go away. It was really destroyed pretty much by the Depression, and then they were gone before World War II started. On September 30th, 1955, at 5:45 p.m., 24-year-old actor James Dean was killed this week in Chalome, California. I can't pronounce it, but
Chalome, California.
Chalome, California.
Hello.
Which is
we would call it Chalamet.
Chalamet, California.
Lord.
Thank you.
Really?
I just made that.
Well, it sounds good.
It sounded as good as what you said.
But it's on a road north of Paso Robles, California, out in the country, and I've driven on the road. I didn't realize that's where the marker was for James Dean's passing. But a pretty fun little road to drive, and I'm sure that's why he was out there driving his Porsche 550 Spyder. And he was struck by a 23-year-old Cal Poly student who was basically uninjured while Dean was killed, and his mechanic that was riding with him was seriously injured. In 1978, this week, car and driver editor Don Sherman set a Class E record at the Bonneville Short Flats, driving
Salt Flats.
Salt Flats. Why did I say short? No,
Short.
It says salt. I said short. So, Salt Flats, driving a Mazda RX-7 with the rotary engine, and he went 183 miles an hour in that car, which is pretty amazing for the rotary to get that kind of speed. But
out there, you got plenty of room to wind it up. Let it go.
And then in 1982, the first showing of the TV series Knight Rider was on. So this week was the date that it started.
Where the car talked and drove.
And the car's name was KITT.
Yes.
And what did KITT stand for?
Tell me.
Knight Industries 3000. KITT. With the star David Hasselhoff. Soon to be the star of Baywatch.
And YouTube.
And quite the singer in Germany.
And
he is.
I modeled my body after watching Baywatch.
The one after he went on YouTube.
Is that the one where he's laying on the floor eating a hamburger, drunk as a skunk? Yeah, I've seen you there, Don.
I recognize that.
So that's this week in automotive news, automotive history.
Oh.
Sounds like a bunch of poop to me.
Speaking of automotive news, Ford Motor Company executives hopeful that dealers will convert an incredibly high percentage of Bronco SUV reservations into actual sales and believe they'll be filling those orders for more than a year.
I think they will.
Automaker on Friday reached out to its U.S. retail network in a video to describe the allocation process of one of the most highly anticipated vehicle launches in its history. Ford began building Bronco pre-production models at its Michigan assembly plant this week and plans to deliver the first off-roaders starting in late spring of next year. Ford earlier this week said the Bronco build and price site will go live in October. Beginning in December and continuing through January, dealers will work with customers to convert their $100 refundable deposit into an actual sale, confirming accessory purchases, final prices, and financing options. Ford expects to offer customers an approximate time frame on their vehicle's build starting date late in the first quarter.
And the nuttiness has started because people are selling their position on that list.
Oh, my God.
Really?
For more than the $100. For substantially more than the $100. But,
why didn't we think of that? For $100.
We could have gone to every Ford dealer in town and got our name on the
list.
Yeah, got on the list and then marketed it.
They're going to absolutely sell out of that truck. I don't think they're going to have to worry about pre-selling everyone they're going to build for the first year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got thoughts about buying a first run anything.
Yeah, but We just needed to buy the $100 ticket and resell it.
Well, either that or actually buy one and then sell it for an extra $20,000 because those people that have the money
will spend it.
Yeah,
that happens over and over again as well. So you heard Daimler, it's not Chrysler anymore, they named a new CEO, Demetrius Salakis, and he'll take over as head of Mercedes-Benz North America effective January 1st.
Rolls right off your tongue. That's it for this hour of the In Wheel Time Car Show. More after a quick break.
A crying baby is impossible to ignore, but a quiet baby can be easy to forget. Every year, dozens of children lose their lives because otherwise attentive adults forgot they were in the back seat. It only takes a moment for a car to heat up to dangerous levels, even on cooler days. So get in the habit of always looking in the back seat and use reminders to ensure baby is always with you. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by NHTSA.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so stay a minimum of 6 feet away from others and stay home if you can. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hello, everybody, from Studio A in Texas, USA. It's the award-winning In Wheel Time Car Show. Today, inside our new car showroom, the Cadillac CT4. I hope. We'll give you an in-depth review. We've got Mr. Electricity, Richard Buzz Smith, with Electric Vehicle Talk. You'll get this week's automotive news. Conrad's Car Clinic. We talk about the 1994 Mitsubishi Delica. What did he say? The Delica. You'll want to stay tuned for that. All just ahead on today's In Wheel Time Car Show for Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Howdy. Along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, Jeff Zekin sitting just off camera. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us on this Saturday. And we're just going to get right into it with Mr. Buzz himself, Richard Buzz Smith, the EV Angelus. Richard, it is always good to see you and to hear from you. Glad you could join us today. How are things going?
Oh, things couldn't be better. Call me Buzz.
All right, we're going to do that. So, Buzz, I know that you guys have got some sort of a road trip planned, and we're going to talk about that. But we also want to talk about the EV stuff. Since the last we talked, and it wasn't that long ago, I guess 6 weeks or so, that we talked to you last, there has been a humongous a plethora of EV news in all different categories. I mean, California going to ban gasoline car sales. At least try to here in the next 10, 15 years. There's that. There's all sorts of stuff going on with manufacturers out there as far as EVs are concerned. Everybody and his mother, and even builders that we've never heard of before, jumping on the EV bandwagon. But, not only have I had my issues with EV charging, but apparently to confirm my fear, there's a story today.
Paranoia.
Yeah, paranoia. There's a story that came up on Automotive News, and here it is. Most EVs now being planned have hundreds of miles of rated range, more than enough for daily driving, but extended or extensive use demands ample and widespread availability of charging. And when it comes to the emerging electric vehicle market, range anxiety is evolving into charger anxiety. Most EVs now being pumped into the future product pipeline have hundreds of miles of rated range, more than enough for daily driving, but extended or extensive use demands ample and widespread availability of charging. I'm not going to bore you with all of the other stuff that goes along with it, but, going on a road trip, I use the example that happened last Thanksgiving out in California and the trip between San Diego and Los Angeles. And, Los Angeles, San Diego, both huge EV markets out there, especially for Tesla. And so Thanksgiving, everybody's going to L.A. from San Diego and vice versa. And there are no charging stations between the two except for one. And they had like a day's worth of cars lined up to get a charge to get the rest of the way. And that is, let's face it, going to be an issue here for a while because they're just, in the cities, not a big deal. And all of the chargers, the home chargers, that's not a big deal. But when you get on the road, that could be a big deal. Am I right?
No. No, actually, that's one of the reasons we're doing this trip. And like you said, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's a couple of things. Like you said, the vast majority of the time, 99% of the time, you're just going to charge at home. And if you've got a 110 outlet and your daily commute is 50 miles or less, then that's all you ever need. You don't even have to go out and buy a 240-volt charger. You can go with the one that comes free with your car. Now, road trips are different. And we are at the early stages. Now, you guys may not know this, but when the automobile first came out, you bought gasoline at your drugstore. So there weren't gas stations. And yet, in just a three-year period in New York City, they went from almost everybody was horse and buggy to almost everybody was automobile. That big city, yep, there's going to be more chargers when that comes around too. But that's one of the things that is being addressed by the Volkswagen Dieselgate settlement. You know, they got fined $9 billion over that. And the vast majority of that money it has to be used for EV education and charging infrastructure. And so every state got millions of dollars. Texas, I believe it's like $243 million to install chargers. So that's going on right now. Electrify America is the company that Volkswagen put together to handle that. And so they're doing a lot of charger installs, but it's also being done by private companies. So yes, absolutely. There are parts of Texas that are difficult to get to today. But if I have to go to Dallas, Fort Worth, down to Houston, there are plenty of chargers. Houston to Austin, Austin and San Antonio back up to Dallas, Fort Worth, no big deal at all.
Okay, so we got that out of the way, that I was wrong once again. All right, so listen, I'm wrong most of the time, but at any rate, I think that you got the gist of the story, that it depends really today on your route that you take. And most EV cars that I have ever been into will help you find the nearest EV station. So I think that if you plan your route accordingly, on some back road somewhere, you might not have a charging station. Okay, so you might have to go 2 miles extra to go a different route to find a charging station. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And there's also, when you're out in public chargers, there's two types. The level 2, which is 240-volt AC charger, is going to drop about 25 miles of range into the car per hour you're plugged in. So for cross-country driving, not the best way to go.
Right.
DC fast charging, within the first 30 minutes, say on a Bolt EV, you're going to get 100 miles of range. In some of the other cars out there, you get 80%, like a Tesla Model S, I believe it's 80% of their total range, around 320 miles of range in about half an hour. So
lunch or something.
Thing is, you're going to get
while
there,
you're eating lunch.
I just recently went to Estes Park, Colorado, and I thought, well, let's map this out as an EV trip from Dallas, Fort Worth. And I was going to have to go way out of my way because the Panhandle just doesn't have any chargers. I was going to have to go up north to Kansas and then cut over, and I didn't want to do that. But things are changing. And one of the things I used to tell my customers when I sold cars, and it kind of blows their mind, is if you drive 12,000 miles a year, your monthly fuel cost, which in this case is electricity in Texas, because we have really cheap electricity here, you're going to spend between $30 and $35 a month. Well, that's a huge savings over most people what they're spending on gas. So take that gasoline money. If you want to do a really long cross-country trip today, but you're just dying to have an EV, go get that EV, and then take that $200-300 a month you're saving in gasoline and sock it aside. And I guarantee you, when you go on vacation, go rent the biggest premier Suburban you can find, and you'll still be saving money in the long run and have a luxurious cross-country trip with no range anxiety.
That's a thought.
Okay.
Americans are real bad about buying what I call the 2% car. They think once a year I've got family that comes in for Christmas and I've got to haul a bunch of people around. And so they go buy a 3-row SUV for that 1 or 2 weeks out of the year.
Right.
Rent that SUV, use it for those things.
I think that's a great idea. Okay, so I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Nah.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yes, me. Okay, so for 100 miles and a DC charging station, I got to spend 30 minutes waiting for the car to recharge.
Yep.
I'm not a very patient guy where I can go and take my, let's just say, 30 mile per gallon Nissan Sentra that I reviewed earlier today that gets at least 37 miles per gallon, and I can go down to any gas station and fill that thing up. It may take me 5 minutes, as opposed to spending, 2 hours to get a full charge on an EV. How do you address that?
Well, the only time you need to do that is if you're going cross country, or if you live in an apartment and can't charge at home. Now, unfortunately, people like apartment dwellers have been left out of the electric revolution up until now. Now that we've got multiple vehicles out there with more than 250 miles of range, they can start thinking of the electric car differently. Most people like me who have electric cars and can charge at home, we think of them like our smartphone. If you're home, plug it in. Even on 110, you're going to have a full tank every day when you leave, and you don't have to ever find a gas station, stop at a gas station, or any of that stuff. But the apartment dwellers have been left out because they had no place to charge. Well, now with these chargers, especially in metropolitan areas showing up, they can start thinking of the car not like a smartphone, but like a gas car. So on your way home every day, do you top off your gas tank? Well, no. Everybody hates going to the gas station anyway, and that would be just compounding the problem. Every time I go there, I'm smelling fumes. There's some guy smoking a cigarette, and I'm thinking, oh, God, the place is going to blow up. A panhandler come up and ask me for change so he can get out of town. And then invariably, the receipt thing says, or the screen says, receipt failed to printed, see cashier inside, which just drives me crazy.
Me too.
Well, now an apartment dweller just once a week instead of once a day would go to a restaurant or a movie theater that has a charger, plug into DC fast, go watch a movie, go have dinner. By the time you come out, it's full for the next week again.
Or go to Buc-ee's, because usually when you go to Buc-ee's, you're always going to use their restroom.
And you're in there for at least an hour shopping.
Wandered around trying to buy beaver nuggets.
That's it. Okay, so hold that thought. We got more questions coming up. Stay with us. Buzz Smith, evangelist, on the line with us right now, and we're going to talk more with him in just a second.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions, don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Talking to Buzz Smith, the evangelist here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. So glad that you could join us today, and thank you, Buzz, for joining us as well. We're talking EVs, we're talking about charging stations, range anxiety, all of the above. And I don't want to be Mr. Negativity here. I'm not trying to do that.
It just comes natural.
It just comes natural. It's part of my DNA, or is that DA?
Well, I know, George Skelton said you love electric cars so much, your favorite music is AC/DC. Thanks, George.
We love George. George is a regular visitor of this show. But so all right. So now we've got that kind of figured out. I want to talk to you about this road trip that you've got planned. Who's going? Are other people going with you, and how's that going to work out when you've only got 2 or 3 charging stations and you got 12 cars on a road trip?
Well, it'll be interesting. This is, I drive a plug-in hybrid, so I've never had to worry about range anxiety.
Well, of course, it's a hybrid.
Yeah.
So it's got a gasoline motor.
With a plug-in hybrid, it stays electric until it runs completely out of electricity. So when I'm in town, it's 100% EV for me. But when I want to do a road trip, I have no concerns. I just take a road trip. Now, I wanted to prove to people that you don't have to worry about it quite as much as everybody thinks you do. And so I was, the dealership I used to work for from time to time hires me to come out and teach new salespeople how to sell EVs. And I was out there doing some training, and then I ended up over at a GM, or Chevrolet, actually, corporate has hired me to do some training, regional training for them for EV sales. And they happened to do it as a webcast like this. And we're at a company called Swati here, Southwest ADI, which sells the accessories for all the dealerships. And, you know, they've got kayak racks for the Bolt EV, bicycle racks, all this cool stuff. And we got talking about it, and I thought, well, you know, people think about EVs wrong. They think about them as these econo boxes that they'll hate to drive, and, you know, yeah, it'll save them a lot of money, but as soon as they're off for the weekend, you know, it's go get some other car to drive in. So I went back to my dealership and asked them, you know, how about loaning me this vehicle for a 4-day weekend and put a kayak rack on it, go buy a kayak, put a bike rack on it that'll hold at least 2 bicycles, and my wife and I will take this thing across Texas. And it kind of shocked me. The general manager there, who's been very supportive of me all through my time when I worked there, said, okay, we're going to do that. And sure enough, you know, they bought a kayak, they bought the kayak rack, and they had this thing set up in the showroom. And for the first time, people didn't just walk by the car thinking it was another gasoline-powered small SUV. They stopped and they were looking at it and opening doors and checking it out. And so they realized, yeah, this is just a different way to approach selling the vehicle and putting it in a different light than most people anticipate. Now, I wanted to take it into a challenging area, so we're going to leave the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we're going to drive to Enchanted Rock, which is 85 miles west of Austin. And my original route, yeah, I've had to make some revisions to it, but my original route took me through not major interstates, just, you know, backcountry, you know, farm to market type roads and state highways. And the reason I chose that route was and you guys might know how to pronounce this since y'all are good at pronunciation, Hico, Texas. I don't know if it's Hico or Hico or what.
I think it's Hico.
Hico. Okay, right outside of town, there's a country club, and they offer free charging. And if you stop there for free charging, they'll even run you into town so you can have a meal, you know, while your car's charging, and then come pick you up and bring you back. And when I was looking at photographs of their installation, the roof has 40 solar panels on it. So this is right up my alley. You know, I've got 32 solar panels on my roof here. So
let me guess, you own the hotel.
No. This is just to promote, you know, a cool EV idea.
Yeah.
So I sent them an email, never got a response. I called them and got voicemail, left them voicemail, never got a response. And I was getting kind of freaked out because that literally was one of only 2 chargers along that route, which is a 250-mile trip. So I definitely wanted to get to Central Texas with plenty of range to get back out of Central Texas.
Or you'd be using the 2 bikes you had on the back of the car, right?
And the kayak.
What I ended up doing was I was going through their website and came across an announcement page. They're shut down for the winter. Thank God I found that out in advance. So now we're going to head down I-35, and in just north of Austin in Belmead, Texas, we're going to stop at it's one of those outlet malls.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop there.
An outlet mall, how funny.
Yeah.
It's got an outlet for his EV charger.
But we're going to stop there, have lunch, do a little bit of shopping. That'll top off the Bolt, and then we'll head out to Enchanted Rock. The really cool day is the 3rd day of the trip. We're going to do a little over 250-mile circuit. We're going to hit Natural Bridge Caverns. Probably won't have time for the tour, but I've never seen even the Natural Bridge, so we'll get out and do some shooting there. We're going to go on to New Braunfels, and we're going to kayak the Comal River there in town.
Yep.
And while we're there, stop off at a Chevy dealership that has a DC fast charger and just top it off again. Then we're going to go to Jacobs Well, Hamilton Pool, which is closed, but I'm taking a drone with me. I'm hoping to do some aerial drone photography, and then back to Enchanted Rock. And it turns out we're not very far from Lukenbach when we're in Enchanted Rock. And
right.
I'm ashamed of myself. I'm a Texan that's never been to Lukenbach.
Going to go say hi to Willie and Waylon and the boys,
and
are
the
you?
boys, exactly. In fact, my theme song for this trip is On the Road Again. And I've got different lyrics for it that are EV. But anyway,
going to burn a little on the trip.
I'm hoping, hey, Willie, if you're out there listening to this, meet me in Lukenbach on the 6th. It's my wife's birthday.
So are you inviting other people to go on this with you?
My wife is going with me.
No, I'm talking about other cars, other EV cars.
I haven't yet, but if anybody wants to, come on out. I leave town on October 1st or 4th, and that's tomorrow, and get back on Wednesday night. But if you're out there near Enchanted Rock or Fredericksburg, go out there, drop me a message on Facebook. And if you want to keep track, we're going to be posting videos to Instagram, my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, and my blog from the road. And we're going to do drone photography, all kinds of really cool stuff. But keep up with us and meet us out there. We'll have big classic Chevrolet logos on the door, so you'll know it's me.
One quick question before we got to let you go because we're out of time. How much does it cost to charge a car that says, okay, we've only got 50 miles of range to go? How much does it cost to buy electricity?
Electricity varies. Many of the level 2 chargers are free. But if you're on a cross-country trip, again, you don't want to stay that long. Most of the other ones, it'll cost somewhere around $6 to $8 to completely fill up the car again. So it's like driving something that gets, 30 miles to a gallon instead of 115 miles to the gallon.
I had to ask that question.
It's not bad.
Buzz, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, you're a pleasure. Let's stay in touch. Give us
one last thing, Don.
Yes,
one last thing.
All
and
right.
this is Houston focus for your guys.
All right.
Evolve Houston is a nonprofit down there that's helping push electric vehicles.
Yep.
And they have a deal for all your listeners. If you're going to test drive, I think it's a Chevy Bolt EV. I think it has to be that specific EV. They've got a deal work with all the Chevy dealers where you'll get $50 just for going and test driving.
Nice.
So get out there, get your butt in that seat.
dinner.
You'll absolutely love it.
Buzz, thanks again. Good to talk to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one, guys.
You do the
Thanks.
same. The evangelist. It's Buzz Smith. All right. Coming up, we're going to have a review of the Cadillac CT4. Mike Marr is going to tell you all about that and what it's like to drive one. Stay with us.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus, so we should all stay home to lower the risk for everyone. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show. We sure appreciate you joining us today, whether you're joining us on our live broadcast or joining us on our podcast. We thank you very much. I'll give you some podcast addresses in just a second here. Time now for our car review of the morning. Mr. Mars has the Cadillac CT4. Mr. Mars?
Yeah, I did. And I really like this car. It's a 2020 Cadillac CT4 Premium Luxury All-Wheel Drive. Now, this is an all-new compact luxury vehicle from the Cadillac team, and it comes, it's really their smallest sedan. It's actually a little smaller than a CT5, as you would think from the name. It comes in 3 trim levels, a luxury, premier luxury, and it comes in a sport. And I really like the way this vehicle looks. It had the LED headlamps up front, and it's kind of a boomerang headlight lamp setup they've got, and it goes along with this really nice, elegant grille. To me, Cadillac's always had some really nice lines to it. Back whenever it had the big fins, it was still about all the lines, and I really liked the way this one looked. Had the intelligent beam headlights up front, had heated side mirrors, rain-sensing wipers, and it had the high-density rear-view camera. It's a really good quality camera so that you could really see some things out back. We were rolling on some nice 18-inch alloy wheels, and I'd really like to see the sport model on this. But when we got to the interior, we were looking at some leather seating. They were heated and vented up in the front. Had the 8-inch color display. Of course, it has the Apple and Android in it. And it's the Cadillac user interface, or Cadillac user experience, excuse me. So it's a CUE is what they call it. And that's where you're going to find all your convenience controls and all the other things that you need. The lighting settings, the air conditioning, etc. So, and they're also where you're going to find the Bose premium surround sound with 14 speakers inside this thing, and it will crank it up. So, and one of the things I really liked about the interior is the fact that it, to me, had a really nice interior, but some of it seems a little cheap for what I expected from a Cadillac. To me, Cadillac is top of the line.
Some of the materials, you mean?
Some of the materials, yeah. Some places there was plastic where I thought, it'd been so much nicer if this had been Cadillac leather. Now, you get up under the hood, you got a 2.7-liter inline-4 turbo. And the 2.0 is a standard engine, so this is an optional engine, 310 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque. And this is backed by a 10-speed automatic, and I thought it worked really well together, a really nice package. So the EPA says you should be looking for about 20 miles to the gallon in the city, 28 out on the highway for combined of 23. And I did get 22 out of this, and I really liked driving it because it did have a sporty feel to it. It had to me, Cadillac just has a little different level. I guess maybe because of the time that I grew up and what I saw, the doctors, that was a doctor's vehicle and things. So I just have a different attitude towards the Cadillac. But it had very responsive steering, and it did have a sport mode that would change things a little bit, but it didn't quite go like if you got the sport trim. Now, we did have the all-wheel drive, and the sporty feel was there, but it didn't really feel like an all-wheel drive either. And so it's an entry-level luxury sports sedan is what you're going to call this vehicle if you go to look at it. And if you're going to look at something else to compete with it, maybe an Audi A3 that starts at around $33,300, or even a Genesis G70 that starts at around $35,000. But you can get a base CT4, which is the new model from Cadillac, for $32,995 starter. Now, the premium luxury CT4 that we were driving started at $37,495. And the MSRP is tested with a few options. $49,270.
It's a boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has some stuff added to it.
When you said that $30,000 range, I thought,
sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Yeah, it was bumped quite a bit between the bows, the wheels, the engine.
Putting content on it added about $12,000.
Yeah, it was a bunch. Okay. So, but it was a very nice car.
Very nice, the Cadillac CT4. Thank you, Mr. Mars. Let's check in on our national events calendar, and
Mustang Fest is going on this weekend in Corpus Christi. So if you're anywhere in the Corpus Christi area,
Mustang Fest,
head on down to Corpus and check out the national.
Well, we might have viewers in Corpus.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why if you're over there, go check.
Where
it out.
is it?
At the convention center in Corpus Christi.
Okay.
And then on the October 18th, the Dallas Truck and Jeep Fest. There's supposed to be like 2,000 vehicles there, including about 400 vendors, and that is going to be out at the racetrack. The Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals is going to be, again, in the Donald Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois, which is in the Chicago area. The October 24th is the Japanese classic car show in Long Beach. I haven't heard, what's the status on SEMA right now? Because SEMA is supposed to be November.
SEMA is canceled until 2021.
Totally
Absolutely.
Okay.
You asked that question last week.
No, I didn't make my notes and remind myself that it was canceled.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that has that disease.
November 8th is the Houston Exotic Auto Festival, and that's always going to be a pretty good thing, and that's going to be over in Beltway 8 and Autoerotica. So
I think it's supposed to be whatever.
It's Exotic Auto Festival. The Dub show. The Dub show in Dallas, and then I believe the Los Angeles Auto Show has been.
What the hell is a Dub show?
Dub is the lowered cars with the 22s, 24, 26, 28-inch, 30-inch wheels and tires.
Okay.
The donk.
The donk.
Yeah.
We still haven't heard status on Houston Auto Show, have we? Did you hear from
Not yet.
Rochelle?
Rochelle is still working on that.
I think it's
So that's scheduled for the 27th through the 31st of January of 2021, and then followed shortly after that in February is the Houston RV Show. So that's the National Car Show scene.
All right, thank you, sir. The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, InWheelTime.com. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Radio, iHeart Podcast TuneIn, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict, among others. In Wheel Time Car Show continues after this break.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild-to-wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com.
Do you know what teens just love? Not being told what you're supposed to love. That's not anyone's business but yours. It doesn't matter what you love, but if you love it, click it. That includes you too. Because in 2018, 42% of Texas teens who died in traffic crashes were not wearing their seatbelts. Make sure everyone is buckled up. Every rider, every ride. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
This is the award-winning In-Wheel Time Car Show, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin off screen there. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad that you could join us on this absolutely gorgeous Saturday here in Houston, Texas. I mean, it is, you can't, Chamber of Commerce has nothing to do with this.
There's not a cloud in the sky. The temperature's cool. The humidity's down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but fall only lasts 3 days in Houston.
I know. This is one of those 3 days, though. We're going to take it when we can get it.
Thank you for our bubble buster. I appreciate that. All right, so we've got a very interesting guest with a very interesting topic. Mars found this, and I thought, what? Who? Where? Okay, so
Don's lost.
I want to introduce you to Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. There they are, and they happen to own a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica, I think that's the way you pronounce it, 4x4 minivan. And it's a project that they had, and a cross-country, they drove cross-country to buy this, and then they drove back to Utah to upgrade it into a project car, basically. And so it's great to see you both. Thank you all very much, both of you, for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. So I don't know, where am I speaking to you from?
We live in Oregon.
In Oregon, actually.
You're in Oregon, out there on the left coast. So,
Yes.
Welcome to Texas.
Welcome to Texas. So I want to know a little bit about you guys. Are you guys car aficionados?
Yes. Yeah, very much
Everything,
so.
so.
Yeah. Have been all of our lives, pretty much.
So apparently, did you know that before you met?
No. We actually met on the way to a car show in Chicago back in 2000, believe it or not. And
An import car show.
yeah, we happened to go to the same college, didn't know each other there, and we had a mutual friend in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I was driving down there, and they asked if she could hitch a ride with me, and I said, yeah, sure, and
We haven't stopped talking since.
yeah, that's about it. That's about how it started.
That in itself is a great story to begin with. And how long have you guys been married?
16 years.
16 years.
A while.
So you count. Let me figure it out.
All right.
Yeah,
Right.
toes, right.
Been together for over 20 years, but married 16.
Gotcha. So what kind of car did you guys each have when you got married?
Ooh. I had
Good question.
I had a souped up Nissan Sentra SER, basically. It was a four-door
Sure, I remember those.
Sentra SER with SR20DE engine and a bunch of modifications to it. Would drag race it and autocross and that kind of stuff.
I had a first model year teal-colored Volkswagen Jetta GL3 sedan. So, more of a basic car, but, after that we got into a lot more imports and Hondas and then got into the 4x4 scene. In addition to imports, we still have a couple imports as well.
So that's where kind of I'm heading with this sort of stuff. So I understand that you guys somehow decided that you wanted to go after a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica 4x4 minivan. What in the world possessed you to seek something like that out? I didn't even know such a thing even existed.
Well, so long story short, we had an 89 Mitsubishi Delica, which was totally different. Her godmother lives in New Zealand, and when we were there, she had one of these earlier vans, and I kind of fell in love with it. It was four-wheel drive, turbo diesel. You could camp in it. It was traveling. It was great. We just happened to find one locally, and then we sold that one in May of this year. Yep. And the newer generation, which is the Delica Space Gear, came up for sale. It was the right vehicle in the wrong location. And
we flew across the country to basically buy it in Florida and then drive it all the way back to Oregon.
Oh, my God.
That's how we roll.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's one heck of a road trip. I can only imagine the size of the suitcase as you checked. Did you go on the airplane to go get it?
We flew there. Yeah, we ended up flying there. So we packed essentials, camp essentials, because, we wanted to make sure to distance ourselves the whole entire way back. So we didn't, stay in any hotels. We slept in the van. We slept at truck stops. So we had some of our camp gear. We brought Mountain House, meals, bunch of granola bars, things like that. Cooking fuel after the fact, and made our way across the country.
Now, what an absolutely amazing story.
But the Mitsubishi Delica, was that never a domestically sold vehicle, though, is it? That's what would be called a JDM, a Japanese domestic market or an Australian market vehicle that was imported into the United States by an individual.
That's correct. The closest thing we got was a couple of years in the U.S. Mitsubishi did sell what they simply called the van. It was the first generation, or not the first generation, but the L300 Star Wagon body style, but only available in two-wheel drive with an automatic transmission.
The Star
Wagon. It was only available
Wagon
for about 3 model years, and then they axed it. And so you're right. This vehicle had been imported from Japan to Florida.
And do you have any pictures you could share?
We do.
We would like to see the Delica.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, let me see how to do this here.
Okay, so and while you're doing that, I have to ask the question. So, and this is not a derogatory thing. Please don't take it that way. But I consider myself one. Y'all are car nerds.
Oh, totally. My gosh. we are car geeks to the nth degree, and we geek out about, maybe different cars than other people might geek out about, for sure. I mean, trust me, I love anything with a crankshaft. We run a website called Crankshaft Culture, and we truly believe every vehicle is an adventure. And whether that's a 57 Chevy that is amazing, or even if you're into, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're into cars, I'm totally all about that.
All right,
but your passion sounds like it's a little bit more built around the Japanese market vehicles with your Sentra, and then seems like possibly the imported Japanese vehicles that aren't typically sold here in the States.
That's correct.
So is your Mitsubishi a right-hand drive?
Yes, it is. It's actually one of 3 that we have. We have one van, and then we have 2 Mitsubishi Pajeros. And the Pajeros are basically Japanese market Monteros. So the Montero was sold in the United States up until, I think, 2006, if I remember correctly. And ours is a short wheelbase.
Yeah, kind of a mid-size SUV.
Right. Ours is a short wheelbase, 2-door. Both are turbo diesel. One just got a brand new engine in it. And yeah, they're lifted and 4-wheel drive and souped up for off-roading, that kind of stuff.
All right.
They just sent you guys a couple photos.
Oh, you just sent it to us. Okay. Well, maybe we can get that up there. But I want everybody to know, I guess the vehicle, the Delica, is available to be seen on crankshaftculture.com?
Correct, yes.
Okay, good. So we can steer everybody over there. We're trying to find the picture now. So at any rate, I just find it fascinating that you have sought out a unique, to say the least, vehicle to work on. Can you find parts for this?
No.
Well,
No,
what do you do when it breaks down?
Fix it.
Yeah. You call AAA. No.
Yeah, right.
It's the parts are actually they're not too bad. The version that we got was introduced in 1994, And so because of the United States 25-year-old import law, meaning you can't bring anything in that was not sold in the U.S. if it's newer than 25 years. Parts for these aren't quite as easy as some of the older vans, but there's a lot of components that were shared with the Montero. The engine and transfer case, the transmission were all from the Japanese market Pajero. But with the way shipping is, or I should say was before COVID, I can get parts from Europe, parts from Japan in 4 or 5 days. It's not too bad. I mean, my local auto parts store can't get stuff that fast sometimes.
Well, it's weird looking. I don't know how else to put it. It looks weird. Well, and that's a compliment. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I was trying to figure out how to share this here, so hopefully you guys got the photos. Otherwise, I think I might be able to share my screen.
Yeah, we've had them there. We're just not keeping them up.
There we go.
Yeah. So it is. This is a very rounded off kind of minivan looking thing, but it does have 4-wheel drive. It's got kind of a really neat trick transfer case to it. It's called Super Select. So you've got 2-wheel drive, you've got 4-wheel drive high with an open center differential, you've got 4-wheel drive high with a locked center differential, and then you've got true 4-wheel low for when you're in the rocks or in the mud and you need that extra bit of grunt. It's got a 2.8 liter turbo diesel engine with a top mount intercooler on it, makes about 140 horsepower and 230 foot-pounds of torque, and it does pretty well. Easily cruises at 75 miles an hour, no problem. The earlier van that we had a different engine that was not intercooled. It was only about 89 horsepower, 140 foot-pounds torque. And it was happiest at 65, 60 and under. So this one you can really, I could probably even go the speed limit in Texas in this thing.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so y'all hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you in just a second, okay? Stand by. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. We're going to talk more about the Delica right after this.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show on this beautiful Saturday in Houston, Texas. And I don't think the weather could be any better than it is right here today.
Gorgeous.
So we're talking to Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. They happen to own a thing called Crankshaft Culture, and they also happen to own now a 1994 Mitsubishi Delica. So I have to ask you guys, how in the world did you search this out and find it on the internet, or did you just happen across it thinking, okay, well, this is exactly kind of what we're looking for, let's go for it? How did that work?
Yeah, so because we already had the previous generation, we knew we wanted to stick with a Mitsubishi Delica van. We didn't specifically want necessarily this model, but we had the chance to go check one out, and we thought, it's a little bit safer, more powerful, and we decided, let's go see what the market has. And it just so happens that I was on Mitsubishi, it's called delicaforum.com, run by our friend Kellen Carr in Fort Myers, Florida. And he just happened to message me one day and said, "Hey, I saw you're selling your van." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, I just picked this 94 Delica up." He says, "It's really cool." He says, "I'm probably going to list it soon." I'm like, "Well, that's cool." He said, "It's not by chance a 5-speed manual, is it?" He says, "Yeah, it is." He says, "Are you interested?" I said, "I just might be." I said, "Where are you located?" He said, Florida. I said, "Well, that's too bad." But, sometimes it's just worth it. The two Pajeros that we have, we actually flew to Texas twice and bought the Pajeros in Texas, one in Houston and one in Austin.
And drove them back.
And drove those back. So if it's the right car, sometimes it's the right car, and you do what you need to do to get it.
All right, so here, what do you guys do for a real living?
So I'm a full-time automotive journalist and freelancer. I do various marketing services, social media management, PR things for automotive clients as well. I write for several different automotive publications, as well as the New York Times Wheels section. So actually the story on how we bought this vehicle and drove it back is one of the articles that I wrote ended up in the New York Times in that Wheels section. So
That's got to be an award-winning piece that you did.
Well, I hope so someday. As far as award winning, that'd be great. But yeah, so that's what I do. So I do a lot of writing, work with a lot of different automotive clients and publications. And then Andy?
Yeah, so my full-time job is at Warren Industries. We're often best known for our winches and hubs and bumpers, that kind of stuff. I'm the strategic communications manager there, so I do PR, media relations, copywriting. I've been there on and off since about 2006. And then I'm also a part-time automotive journalist. I write for a magazine called Trails, as well as select other publications here and there. And then, of course, we run Crankshaft Culture.
So how many Delicas are there in the U.S., do you know?
You know what? Somebody actually just brought that question up online the other day. I have no idea.
I've never seen one before.
Okay. They're most popular, it seems, in the Northwest and the Northeast, for what it's worth. Part of that might be the relationship to Canada, because they're super popular up in British Columbia. I mean, relatively speaking, but there's quite a bit of them in British Columbia.
Well, in Canada, they only have a 15-year import law versus us in the U.S. having a 25-year import law. And what that basically means is Canada, if a vehicle that's a JDM vehicle or from Australia or wherever, if somebody wants to import it, they only have to wait 15 years in order to bring it in. We in the U.S. have to wait 25 years. So this body style of the Space Gear Delica, or otherwise known as the L400 variant, just was legal to start being brought in last year. So as far as this specific van style is very rare still in the U.S. because, U.S. has only had it for, a year and a little over half.
Right. So it's the newest one you can get, though, in the United States.
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is a 1994. So exactly, this is the first one of that body style that you can get in for the first model year.
All right, let's go back. How was the road trip from Florida all the way across? What was that, a 2,000-mile trip?
Oh, at least.
I think it was more closer to 3,300.
Yeah, 3,500,
oh my God.
Something around there.
And how long did it take you to make the journey?
A long time.
Yeah, we started in Fort Myers, Florida, and drove it all the way back to Portland, Oregon. I think we stopped for the night outside Atlanta. We stopped in Oklahoma. We stopped in Colorado, and then we got home. So I think it took us about five days. But I think we spent 2 nights in. Actually, we spent 2 nights in Colorado.
We stayed a little bit in time in Colorado, but other than that, we pretty much slept at truck stops and whatever food, went to the bathroom there obviously and grabbed some food if we didn't have it along with us, and that's how we minimized.
And you had no car problems.
No car,
not really.
Thank goodness. I'll tell you what though, we brought a fairly big. It's kind of this big kind of like outdoorsy camping bag. I made sure whenever I travel with a vehicle like this, I always make sure I have my tool roll with me, which has got my basic, your 10 millimeter, your 12, your 14, 17, 19, and a couple other things. Big hammer.
Well, I don't know about you, but I was just going to say I'm a big duct tape and coat hanger and pliers kind of guy.
We had to bring what we could only bring on the airplane.
And Don has a metric hammer.
Yeah. So we made sure we had some tools with us, but we had no problems with the vehicle. Thankfully, it drove very well. One of the challenges actually though was obtaining a temporary permit to drive it. Oregon issues what they call trip permits. I think Texas does too, right? And so we had to get some sort of proof that we actually owned this vehicle, and so Mercedes ended up calling pretty much each state that we rolled through and
13 states worth of state trooper offices. I called.
Yeah, asked if our Oregon trip permit would be valid, and believe it or not, we're still waiting on registration just because our DMVs are still not open to the public due to COVID-19. So we got this thing in May. We're still rolling on a trip permit from June. So
this is an absolute novel. Waiting to be written if you haven't written it already, Mercedes.
Yeah, it's you're not the first person to say that we should write a book or, a short story series that's more than crankshaftculture.com. Maybe someday. We certainly have enough adventures with all of our right-hand
Well,
drive
I'll tell you
vehicles
what, this would have made a great docu-series to go with you guys on the plane, the flight down to Fort Myers.
Jump into a car you don't know anything about, that there's no parts available in the United States for.
It has just a little bit of roadkill kind of thing going for it there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Listen, you guys are an absolute delight to talk to. So glad that we hooked up with you. Hey, be sure and stay in touch with us and let us know about the next adventure, whatever it may be, because I'm sure that it's going to be enjoyable for all of us to hear.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. And maybe next time we'll talk about how we're building it up, because we're customizing it right now.
Absolutely. And when you come through Houston, be sure and look us up, okay?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal with the 1994 Mitsubishi Delica. What a road trip! I can't think of.
We couldn't look at it. I talked to her about looking at it now. Maybe some live shots, but it's in the shop, getting some of the modifications done that they're doing to it to get it ready. So it'd be good to talk to them.
Crankshaftculture.com is their website.
Yeah.
You got something to say? Open the cutouts and let us know about it. All you have to do is shoot us an email, info@inwheeltime.com. A splash and go now, and we're back with Conrad's Car Clinic right after this.
Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Andy and Mercedes Lilienthal. That's an award-winning interview right there. That is some good stuff. Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program on this Saturday. Kind of wrapping things up. It's time now for Conrad's Car Clinic, though. And today we're going to talk about windshield wipers. And I had an old 1954 Chevrolet pickup truck that had vacuum-operated windshield wipers, and what a pain in the butt that was.
But that's an improvement, because I wanted to talk today about who invented the windshield wiper. And you may wonder about that question, and only to find out that a woman filed the patent for windshield wipers before before the automobile was even first made. That she had, Mary Anderson was on a trip from New York, and she was inspired to design a windshield cleaning device as she was riding along in a streetcar, and the streetcar operator had to stick his head out the window to look, and I guess he bumped into something, and she kind of freaked out. So she designed a wiper system that was like some rags on some sticks that were attached, and the guy used it manually inside to clean the windshield when he needed to. It didn't run full time. It wasn't electric. It was
his arm got tired.
Yeah, it was on a crank. But she had patented it, and then a patent is only good for 17 years. So by the time it rolled into where they were putting windshield wipers on cars, the wipers on cars really didn't come as standard equipment until the 40s. They were options prior to that, which I thought was the weirdest.
Well, I saw a movie, I don't know where it was, this just past week, and they actually it was a manual thing, and they just went up at the top of the windshield header up there and then swiped it manually.
It was a hand, what I call a hand crank, and they would just sweep the hand crank from side to side.
It was on a bus, I think.
And that's what worked the wipers, and that was her design. But she never profited from her patent of wipers on cars. Again, like I said, it wasn't until the 40s that automotive manufacturers began including wipers on all of their products as standard equipment. So she's not a well-known name, but she really impacted the industry. If you think about it. Early wipers were, again, manually operated, and then after that they became vacuum operated. So it was actually hooked up to the vacuum created by the engine, which was great as long as you were at an idle or at a low speed, because as soon as you got on it, the wipers stopped working because there was no more engine vacuum. Or if you were climbing up a hill, your wipers had stopped working again because there was no more engine vacuum. And originally, there was just a single speed to the wiper. The way you varied the speed on the vacuum ones was rev the engine. They'd slow down and speed up.
Going down a hill, they worked great.
Yeah.
Going up a hill, they didn't work at all.
And then they came out with the electric wipers and then the dual-speed wipers. And there's a great story, and we'll talk about it next week, about intermittent wipers and the intrigue behind intermittent wipers. But something to remember, if your wipers are streaking or they're scratching the windshield or they're torn or something, you need to have them replaced. I'm a believer probably replacing them at minimum of once a year.
Absolutely.
If not twice a year, depends on how much dirty. Yeah, well, twice a year just because of how dirty and how much use they get, because and the heat that damages the rubber or the plastic of the wipers.
I did not realize how bad the wipers were on the Corvette until I replaced them. Oh, my God, what a difference a day makes. Yeah, and I think total price on 2 wipers, and they're the great big long ones, for the Corvette, $22, $25, under $25.
Not bad at all. And you got to remember, your wipers have to be at a certain level of performance to pass state inspection. So,
yeah, I've seen state inspections where they go with the rubber thing kind of
flying
in 2 different pieces.
And they still pass them. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't get your wiper corrected, it can start scratching your windshield, and then it's permanent.
That's very irritating when it does that.
Well, look forward to next week when we talk about the
intermittent intrigue.
Yeah, exactly, because that's a relatively new thing. They didn't have that. Yeah.
69 is when intermittent wipers started, and killer story behind it.
I want to remind everybody about the upcoming race out at Houston Motorsports Park. It's called Boobs Rock, and it's going to be a powder puff eco stock race out there. It's coming up on October the 17th. All classes of racing are going to occur, but they're going to focus on breast cancer awareness, so it's going to be a powder puff. So girls. And it's going to be a great event, October the 17th. Mark it on your calendars. Tickets are cheap. Go to NASCARHouston.com and get more information on that.
Are you driving the pace car?
Yeah.
The black Corvette pace car.
Yeah, so I'll do
the official pace car of.
I don't know about that. I share the duties with a guy.
We need to get him a pink shirt made with in-wheel time on it for that race.
With cutouts.
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't do it. I didn't say it.
I don't.
Info at inwheeltime.com. Thanks, Gina.
I'm just going to move on. I think you mentioned this earlier. I'll mention it again. Honda will end its participation as an engine supplier in the FIA Formula One World Championship at the end of next season to focus on zero emissions technology. This is a release that they sent out yesterday. It's not a result of coronavirus pandemic because, as the president said, the president of Formula One said, it's because of, or Formula One from Honda said, because of our longer-term carbon-free goal.
And Honda's actually just become very competitive in their engine program in F1. Great time to leave.
Honda's departure will leave only Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault as Formula One engine makers.
I thought that was Renault.
Dolphin. PSA Group and Fiat Chrysler have named the 11 members of the board of directors for Stellantis, the new company that will result from the automakers' merger coming up next year. Carlos Tavares, the CEO of PSA and the future CEO of Stellantis, is on the board, but Mike Manley, CEO of Fiat Chrysler, is not in that. So there's that.
So you know Manley, don't you?
Yeah.
I've interviewed him several times
on the show.
Mike and I know Mike Manley. So we've just been joined by some special guests.
We have a live studio audience today.
And they brought liquor.
they brought liquor for themselves, but not for us.
That's all right. We can fix that.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't be long now before the party begins. And I did mention that Ford recalling 700,000 vehicles in North America because of a poor electrical connection that may cause the rear view camera to display intermittently a blank or distorted image, increasing the risk of a crash.
So
it's pretty much
is like our Zoom meetings.
They took a lesson from us.
Intermittently, we don't have Zoom.
Yes, or guests don't show up when they're not invited, that sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. That was.
Think Seth is watching?
I'm so sorry.
You think Seth is watching?
I hope not. We love you, Seth.
We'll have him back on.
Yeah. Seth Angel was supposed to join us today, but I don't think that he got word or the invitation, actually. So, but we're going to have him back on. He is the president general manager out there at Houston Raceway Park that's going to have the NHRA event at the end of the month on October the 24th.
Be there. Wow, you gotta sign up for tickets.
Yes, and we will be there, as a matter of fact.
Yes, we will.
And so that ought to be. We always enjoy going out there because we got all the NHRA drivers, and we're working on all of that as we speak. And Mike is working feverishly with Toyota on that sort of thing. So thank you. So there's that. So remember that. Well, that's it for this episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Hey, when you're on Facebook, please give us a like and tell your friends about us. You'll get Conrad's Unicorn hunting features along with all things automotive all week long. In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. 30-minute daily podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. Special thanks to all of our guests today, and especially the Lilienthal's. That was quite an interview. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our video and marketing chieftain and tire dictionary is Jeff Zekin. This week's In Wheel Time Car Show is produced and directed by Monica Lewinsky. For booking agent and podcast man Mike Out of This World Mars, his royalty King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now, and we hope you'll join us again for our next live show every Saturday, 9:30 to noon, right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Enjoy your weekend. Mask up, wash those nasty hands, and stay sanitary. We'll see you tomorrow morning at Prince's Hamburgers at Sharpstown Golf Course for the monthly Chrome and Coffee get-together. That's 9 to noon. So long for now. We'll see you next week.